The Legacy of Professions starting from Danmachi. Chapter 81. At dawn, Liu Qiming climbed out of his king-sized bed and gently nudged Belle beside him. He'd originally bought 2 luxury beds yesterday, but with Lilyruka joining the familia, the spare had to be handed over to her and Hestia. As for Hestia's old bed, Liu Qiming had tossed it out the moment he got back. It was too broken to fit anywhere. Good morning, Teacher Qiming. Belle sat up groggily and looked over. Belle, when Lady Hestia updated your status last night, she said you've accumulated enough. Today we'll aim for your great feat and start the next phase of assassin training. Yes, sir. Lilyruka and Hestia woke at the noise. After greeting them, Liu Qiming left the basement. Today wasn't only Belle's day to achieve a great feat, every one of his own stats had reached SSS. All he needed was the feat itself to level up. According to the system, although his adventurer class was still level 1, his attributes had reached a limit this world had never seen. To qualify for a level up, he would need to defeat a floor boss no higher than the 30th floor. For that reason, Liu Qiming had set his sights on the 37th floor boss, the solitary King Udius. Dungeon, 10th floor. Liu Qiming punched the monster in front of him into a mist of blood. Just as he was about to move on, he glanced sideways at a corner and smiled. Thud, thud, thud. The next moment a strengthened minotaur stepped into view, one horn broken, body blood red, gripping an oversized custom blade. So this is the great feat Freya prepared for Belle. Looking at the obviously unusual minotaur, Liu Qiming vanished and reappeared in front of it, slowly reaching out to touch its chest. Roar. The enhanced minotaur, infuriated by the tiny human who ignored it completely, raised its blade and slashed down. Hush. Behave. In the next instant, a blood-red killing intent enveloped the creature. The blade froze above Liu Qiming's head as the beast began to tremble. Its physique and combat skills show Autar's training from the original story, plus some sort of enhancement drug. Liu Qiming's fingers brushed the minotaur's chest, his terrifying perception analyzed every detail. It was far stronger than in the records, but the current Belle was no longer the old Belle. Go on, fulfill your mission. With that, Liu Qiming headed for the next floor, leaving the paralyzed minotaur behind. Only minutes after he left did the creature lower its blade and charge off, howling, toward the entrance of the 9th floor. Dungeon, 24th floor. Liu Qiming stared speechlessly at the lava-filled landscape. What was the dungeon thinking? Did it believe he wouldn't blow the place up again? It was wrong. This time he intended to destroy not only the 24th floor but every floor beneath it. Hiss. Hiss. Serpentine monsters rose from the magma lake, eyes locking onto the intruder as they slithered toward him. TCH. Divine Judgment appeared in his hand, humming eagerly. Having been neglected in favor of Yin lately, it urged him to fight. Alright, today you'll get all the action you want. He leaned forward, flipped the blade, and the mana in his blood boiled. Annihilating Shadow Prison Slash. A sword flash swept the floor. In moments every serpent and stone giant rushing toward the entrance turned to blood mist, their magic stones shattered. Without looking back, Liu Qiming sped toward his destination, the 37th floor. Anything in his path was carved apart. Minutes later he had crossed 13 floors and arrived. In the ashen rock tunnels, skeletons roamed. Red flames sparked in their eye sockets as they charged the black-haired youth like a tide. Perfect. Time to test my new spell. He stood still while a skeleton swung its bone blade at his chest. Clang. The moment the blade touched him, a white barrier flared. Cracks raced along the weapon into the skeleton's frame, the soul fire in its eyes dimmed. Bang. Even shattered, the skeleton stubbornly struck again before exploding in midair and dropping a magic stone. Huh. What's with this little skelly bro? He wiped an imaginary tear and pocketed the stone, his first kill with the new spell, worth keeping for a few hours. Once he left the dungeon it would become spare cash anyway. While he stooped to pick it up, dozens more skeletons died from the physical and soul backlash of his barrier. Half an hour later every skeleton around him had turned into stones. He opened his interface and checked the consumption of barrier shield. It had dropped from the original 524 26.2 spirit plus 26.2 vitality times 10 to 300, but with his doubled mana recovery it was climbing back rapidly. He also noticed only attacks strong enough to hurt his real body drained the shield, weaker strikes could be ignored entirely. Within minutes the lost points had already refilled. Looks like I never have to worry about being swarmed again. Not that I ever did, thanks to unrivaled momentum. Muttering to himself, he advanced. When he reached the center of the 37th floor, the ground quaked and a hill dozens of meters high rose. Giant bone hands thrust out, and Udius's titanic frame appeared. At last, floor boss, the labyrinth's solitary King Udius. Lu Qiming's gentle smile turned bloodthirsty, a faint red gleam in his eyes. Divine judgment. Yin, let's go. In the next instant Yin wrapped his hand like a glove, firmly clasping the hilt of divine judgment. Within the enormous skull's sockets, two dark red flames ignited. Udios rammed a hand into the ground beside him and ripped out a 30-meter greatsword. The black blade oozed a sinister, pitch-black aura. The next instant Udios gripped the hilt with both hands, raised it high, and slashed straight at Lu Qiming. Boom! The colossal edge struck Lu Qiming's head, but a transparent barrier held it steady. The terrifying shockwave didn't even stir his hair. Crack! A glass-shattering sound rang out. The dark red fires in Udios's eyes dimmed, fissures webbed across his body like cracked porcelain. Below, Lu Qiming lifted his gaze slightly. Divine judgment swept upward, a sword chi dozens of meters tall shot from the blade, shattered Udios's greatsword, and slammed into him. Roar! The sword light flashed past, Udios's scream tore through the air. Half of his 30-meter frame vanished, the rest left ragged and broken. As the first feat of my adventurer profession, I'll grant you respect. Lu Qiming bent his knees, muscles coiling, and regarded the ruined Udios with calm eyes. Bang! The ground collapsed under his force, cracks spider-webbed outward. He vaulted skyward, crossing divine judgment before his chest as torrential mana poured into the blade. Ice-fire oscillating sword. The twin blades turned crimson and icy blue, frost and flame spiraled around him. Midair, Lu Qiming looked down, gaze piercing the half-dead Udios toward the dungeon depths. He sensed that familiar consciousness rushing this way. Ha! Late again. Go clean up the mess. He slashed downward, ice and fire intertwined and surged out, instantly reducing the dying Udios to black ash, then bored toward the next floor without losing momentum. Boom! Floor 37's ground bulged and burst, endless flame and frost erupted from the hole. Ding! Congratulations, host. Time to run. Lu Qiming caught the magic stone knocked toward him by the blast, ignored the system prompt, stamped on the air, projected his barrier outward, and drilled through the ceiling toward the upper floors. Behind him, a red-blue sun blossomed, expanding rapidly and obliterating everything. Monsters on several floors were turned to ash before they could react. Their stones melted, froze, and shattered. 1 minute later Lu Qiming halted on floor 24, but he didn't need to lift a finger. Half the floor had already been destroyed by his earlier strike. A vast crater gaped at the center, molten rock cascading downward like a waterfall. Lu Qiming, you fool. Before he could admire the spectacle, a voice seething with fury and savagery echoed below. A dreadful pressure froze the flowing lava and the still expanding red-blue sun. Still let that fool escape. The dungeon consciousness appeared on floor 24, glaring at the spot where Lu Qiming had stood. Its violent aura reduced the already ruined floor to dust. Next time I won't let you get away. It looked down. A bottomless chasm now pierced the supposedly separate floors, and within it the red-blue sun hung motionless. Even the dungeon felt the energy was troublesome. The closer to the surface, the more the gods' restrictions bound it couldn't draw much power. Just you wait. The dungeon cursed, but it had no choice. It repaired the dungeon once more, forcibly diverting Lu Qiming's lingering attack into the deepest levels. It hadn't used this trick in the middle floors because Lu Qiming's perception was too sharp. The instant danger loomed he activated his cheat and fled. An hour later the destroyed dungeon was fully restored. After Lu Qiming's repeated demolitions, the dungeon consciousness had grown ever more adept at patching things up. Once you set foot on floor 50. Halfway through, the dungeon pictured Lu Qiming's miserable fate and smiled cruelly. Once he reached floor 50, it could suppress him for a few seconds, long enough to fling him into the very bottom. Upper floors, 9th floor. Rewind 10 minutes. Belle and Lilith were heading deeper when Belle stopped and warily scanned their surroundings. Is something wrong, Mr. Bell? Seeing him halt, Lilith tilted her head in puzzlement. Lilith, do you feel it, like we're being watched? I'm not sure, but this floor feels strange. Hardly any monsters, and we haven't seen another adventurer since we arrived. She glanced around. Since entering, monsters and adventurers alike were absent. If she hadn't known they were in the dungeon, she might have mistaken it for an ordinary cave. Yeah, it felt like this that day too. Bell nodded, a familiar sensation from his first encounters with Lu Qiming and ice stirring. The thought made him freeze. Could it be? A roar he knew all too well erupted from the passage behind. That was. He spun around. A blood-red minotaur, one horn broken, greatsword in hand, stepped into view, its crimson eyes locked on him. Why is a minotaur on floor 9? Mr. Bell, run. We can't beat it. Let's go. Lilith seized his arm in terror, trying to pull him away. Minotaurs belonged in the middle floors. But Bell gently pushed her aside, face calm yet blazing with resolve as he drew the Hestia knife from his back. Mr. Bell. Lilith, hide. Today I'm going to kill it. But, trust me. Roar. Before Lilith could protest, the Minotaur charged like a tank, its greatsword already sweeping down. Boom. Bell barely shoved Lilith aside and raised the Hestia knife to block. The impact flung him through the air. On the 8th floor of the dungeon, Ice knelt beside a blood-smeared adventurer while she practiced her sword work. Nearby, Riveria and the others tended the wounded. What happened? A Minotaur appeared. You're saying a Minotaur showed up? Beside them, Bet, who'd looked ready to bite someone, whipped his gaze toward the adventurer, eyes sharp. Yeah, no mistake. A Minotaur with a great sword popped out on the 9th floor. Don't tell me it's one of the survivors. But Kaming said only 5 got away. Tiona suddenly recalled the Minotaurs that had climbed from the 17th floor after the last expedition. They'd cleaned them all up, so how could there be another? Impossible. It's been almost a month since then without a single sighting. Even the rumors about trouble on the 24th and 18th floors turned out to be Kaiming's accidental handiwork. Riveria, healing a wounded man, turned her head and spoke. Still, I'm glad you're all right. Are there any adventurers left on the 9th floor? Finn cut off the speculation and looked at the injured adventurer. When we fled, I saw that Minotaur heading for a white-haired kid. Right now he's probably Bell. Before the words were out, Ice spun and sprinted toward the 9th floor entrance. Ice. TCH. Bet shouted and bolted after her. Hey, Ice, Bet, wait up. Tiona grumbled and chased them. Bell. You mean the boy from Kaiming's familia who trained with Ice lately? Finn stared at the entrance Ice had vanished into, then glanced at the others. Raoul, handle things here. We're heading to the 9th floor. If that boy's one of Kaiming's, we can't let him die. With that, Finn led the rest at a run. 9th floor. 2 figures, one small, one huge, clashed and separated, steel rang and the monster roared. Just like back then, but I'm not who I was. Bell leapt, dodging the Minotaur's sweeping blade, and leveled his palm mid-air. Firebolt. 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 Crimson light flared, condensed, and burst above the Minotaur in rapid blasts. Gra. From the flames a massive bullhead charged, horn aimed at Bell's chest. Ha! Bell slammed Hestia's knife against the horn, using the impact to fling himself clear. Mr. Bell. Far away, Lily cried out as she saw him hurled through the air. She pulled a magic sword and ran toward him. Lily, stay back. Bell yelled, spotting her. An instant later the Minotaur loomed over him, scorched bovine face twisted in fury, greatsword falling. Boom. Bell shot like a cannonball, crashing beside Lily, blood spraying. Mr. Bell. She knelt, poured a top-grade potion down his throat. Thud. 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 Across from them the Minotaur charged again. Mr. Bell, run. Lily swung her magic sword. A crescent of flame flew at the monster. The fire parted, and the Minotaur burst through, blade scything at her. Lily. Clang. A lock of gold drifted between them as steel met steel. You okay? Ice drove the beast back with one stroke and glanced at the 2 behind her. Ice. Sword Princess. Seeing them safe, Ice faced the enhanced Minotaur, its strength equal to a level-3 adventurer. You've done enough. I'll save you now. Huh. Save me. Saved again. Who's saving who? Bell stared at Ice, remembering the first time Kaming and she had rescued him. Am I going to be saved again? If I don't rise up now, how long will I keep waiting to be saved before I reach that height? Found you, Ice. Finn's party arrived, stunned to see her shielding Lily and Belle. No, I can't lose here, can't. Belle rose, stepped to Ice's side, and gripped her arm. Belle. Ice met his eyes, understood, and stepped back. Today, I start my first real adventure, become a true peerless assassin. Belle said quietly, walking toward the Minotaur. Belle, remember, every peerless assassin wields a different power. Mine is peerless, yours is longing. When you set that longing ablaze, you'll be real. Step by step Belle advanced, recalling Kaiming's first lesson, and smiled. Ignite longing, I think I get it now, teacher Kaiming. White light erupted, flooding the chamber, streaming into Hestia's knife until a blade of pure radiance several meters long formed. Gra. Lethal strike. Steel clashed. This time Belle held firm, pressing the luminous edge against the Minotaur's greatsword. Gra. The monster roared and kicked. Firebolt. Crimson shifted to blinding white, searing heat filled the air with the stench of charred flesh. Somewhere in the Freya Familia, inside a private chamber. Freya watched the crystal sphere, cheeks flushed, hands trembling against her face as she collapsed into her chair. Ah ha ha, beautiful, so beautiful, even he shines, Kaiming, what are you? Ah, I can't wait to find out. On the 9th floor of the dungeon, Finn and the others stared ahead in disbelief as the level -1 adventurer named Belle was adventuring. What is this? How is this possible? Tiona couldn't believe that the boy who had needed ice to save him moments ago was now pummeling the Minotaur. That's his power. Kaiming said it's called aspiration. Belle can inherit the most important thing of the peerless assassin. Ice gazed ahead calmly, yet the spark in her eyes betrayed her inner turmoil. I have to speed up too. He really resembles Kaiming. Still raw, but I see Kaiming's shadow in him. Finn stepped forward, smiling faintly as he watched Belle fight. Captain, you're wrong. This kid is nothing like Kaiming. Kaiming should look like this. Tion bared a bloodthirsty grin and cackled, ha 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 ha, more, give me more. Well, that part really isn't alike. Finn stared speechlessly at Tion, then back at Belle in combat. Suddenly Finn looked down, the ground was shaking. He snapped his gaze forward. Belle smashed the Minotaur away, brilliant light surging into the sword in his hand. He leaned slightly forward, faint lightning crackling over his body. Lightning blade shadow. Belle kicked off in midair, turned into a bolt of lightning, and pierced through the Minotaur. The next instant the monster split in two, crumbling to ash and leaving only a magic stone and drop items. Lord Belle, you did it. Lily ran happily toward Belle and hugged him tight. Lily. Exhausted, Belle gently stroked the sobbing Lily's head, glancing at the magic stone and items nearby. I succeeded. But what was that earthquake just now? Belle looked questioningly at Ice and the others. The sudden quake had thrown the Minotaur off balance, sparing him a longer fight. No idea, but it came from deep in the dungeon. Something must have happened down below. Finn walked over, smiling wryly as he explained. Could it be, Belle, didn't Kaiming head deep into the dungeon today? Hearing Finn say the quake came from the lower floors, Ice blinked and the image of Liu Kaiming surfaced in her mind. Yes, teacher Kaiming said he was going to the 37th floor to slay the floor master and complete some great deeds. Why? Ice, do you know something? The nearby companions turned curiously to her. Even Belle, still sitting on the ground, looked up. Last time when I investigated the 24th floor, I encountered. Before she could finish, the ground shook violently as if something were racing toward them. A white spike burst from the floor, and a person popped out. Kaiming. Teacher Kaiming. Huh. Kaiming, why are you here? Everyone stared in astonishment at Liu Kaiming, who emerged holding a gigantic magic stone, a white field enveloping him. Finn, Ice, Livia's, so it is you guys. Liu Kaiming smiled at the group, tossed Udios's magic stone to the ground, and looked around. Belle, looks like you succeeded. Huh. Teacher Kaiming, you knew. Kaiming nodded, saying nothing more. He could hardly admit he'd met that Minotaur earlier and deliberately let it loose to beat Belle up, could he? Kaiming, do you know anything about the earthquake just now? Finn stepped up and asked seriously. If anything happened deep in the dungeon, the captain of Warario's strongest familia had to know. Well, I'm pretty sure I caused it. Facing the stern Finn, Kaiming answered with an embarrassed grin. Huh. You caused it, Kaiming. Finn froze, staring blankly. What on earth had the man done to make the shock travel from the 37th floor all the way up here? Kimming, did you blow up the dungeon again? Isa's expressionless face showed a look of, as expected, the moment she heard Kimming had gone deep, she'd already guessed. Blowing up the dungeon, does that even count as a thing? Kimming, how many floors did you blast? Finn tiptoed, leaned close to Kimming's face, and stared at him. Not many, just caved in from the 40th to the 24th. Kimming chuckled awkwardly and turned his head. Actually, he hadn't even gone peerless, he just wanted to test whether combining two classes while again became gauntlets would work. One test and, boom, he'd blasted through that many. Originally he'd only planned to wreck the 37th floor and, while escaping, blow the 24th again. But ice plus fire amplified the blast all the way to the 24th. If he hadn't run fast enough, the furious dungeon consciousness would happily have paid a price to drag him back. Still, blowing it up felt great. That's not many. Even Finn and Ice, who knew, and had seen, Kimming blow up the dungeon before, were speechless. The dungeon may not be human, but you're really a dog. Ahem, Bell's hurt, I'll take him back for treatment. See you next time. Realizing things were turning sour, Kimming grabbed Bell, slung Lily over his back, handed her the Minotaur's magic stone and drops, and bolted with a stone in each hand. Captain, what now? Tion watched Kimming flee. Today they'd come to spar with Ice and test the little tricks Kimming had taught them on monsters. With the dungeon blown up, practice was clearly off the table. Sigh, everyone, keep moving. Let's see how long it takes Kimming's wrecked section to regenerate and whether the environment and monsters change like they did on the 24th floor. Finn sighed helplessly and led the way. The dungeon would auto-repair, but Kimming was blowing it up a bit too often. Still, Finn didn't really mind. After all, the dungeon is the embodiment of this world's evil. Had the gods not descended eons ago to seal it and grant mortals the divine grace, the endless monsters would have destroyed the mortal realm long ago. In the evening, under the glow of the setting sun, Liu Kimming flew above Warario, carrying Lily on his back and Belle Crenelle in his hand, heading toward the distant slums. Teacher Kimming, why are we running? Belle Crenelle struggled to lift his head, battling the fierce wind blowing in his face to look at Liu Kimming above him. Huh. If we don't run, Finn will definitely drag us to the depths of the dungeon to investigate the dungeon I blew up. Since I don't want to go, I have to run. Besides, I just blew up the dungeon. The dungeon consciousness might still be there. If I go, won't I be delivering myself right to the doorstep? However, Liu Kimming did not say this out loud. He just sped up and flew forward. A minute later, he descended, stopping steadily in front of the dilapidated church. Lily, we're here, come down. Just as Liu Kimming finished speaking, Lily jumped off his back, though her legs felt a bit weak. Lord Kimming, could you fly a little slower next time? I'll pay attention next time. This was a special situation. Saying this, Liu Kimming tossed Belle Crenelle aside and handed the magic stones from his backpack, including Udios's magic stone, to Lily, asking her to exchange them for Valis. Belle, I'm going to find the goddess to update my status. You and Lily go exchange the magic stones. What if she runs into danger alone? Yes, Teacher Kimming. Watching the two walk away, Liu Kimming headed toward the basement, opening his panel along the way. Did the system prompt something when he took down Udios? Ding. Congratulations, host, you have completed a great deeds. Do you wish to upgrade the adventurer profession? No upgrade. Liu Kimming ignored the system prompt in front of him, opened the basement door, and walked inside. Although the system upgrade was faster, since they weren't in the dungeon right now, he would definitely choose Hestia, where big is justice. Goddess, I'm back. Kimming, you've returned. In the basement, Hestia, who was preparing dinner, turned around and looked at Liu Kimming with a smile. Goddess, please help me update my status. Saying this, Liu Kimming casually took off his shirt and lay down on the bed. He was already a mature member of the Hestia familia and no longer needed the goddess to do the work herself. Seeing this, Hestia skillfully climbed onto him, took a needle from the box beside the bed, and gently pricked her finger. A pale blue light appeared, and white divine letters surfaced and arranged themselves. On the bed, Liu Kimming felt his body and soul transitioning as Hestia updated his status. His body and soul once again broke through their limits, entering a completely new stage, and his life level was raised again. The system's ding ding sounds rang a few times in his mind. Done. Hestia said, sitting up from Lu Qiming's body, and handed him a status sheet. Congratulations, Qiming, you have successfully become an LV2 adventurer. Thank you, goddess. HMPH. Now let's see what Loki does at tomorrow's Divine Council, ha 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 ha. Hestia couldn't help but laugh triumphantly, imagining Loki's expression when she found out that Lu Qiming had broken the Sword Princess's fastest leveling record. Glancing at the triumphant Hestia next to him, Lu Qiming decided not to tell her that Belcranel had also leveled up. He figured she would be even happier when she updated Belcranel's status herself later tonight. Although his goddess's happiness was based on Loki's unhappiness tomorrow, well, his goddess was justified. Thinking this, Lu Qiming couldn't help but look at the justice that bounced continuously as Hestia laughed heartily, and the guilt he felt toward Loki was deeply healed. After healing his inner guilt for more than 10 minutes, Lu Qiming finally turned his head and opened the system panel to look at the system prompts. Ding! Congratulations, host, your adventurer profession has been raised to LV2. All stats +5, and lifespan has greatly increased. After confirming the system prompt, Lu Qiming clicked on his status panel. World stay time, 263 days 5 hours 4 minutes 28 seconds. Name, Lu Qiming, LV 76, 563,006 billionths. Age, 16, 3800. Mind, 31.5. Strength, 31.5. Agility, 34.5. Endurance, 31.5. Profession, Assassin Adventurer LV2. Skill points, 0. Lu Qiming looked at the brand new data on the status panel in front of him. During the process of leveling up the adventurer profession, his assassin level finally increased from 75 to 76, granting him a 0.1 bonus to all stats. Furthermore, his lifespan was now displayed next to his age. 3,800 years, that really is a long time. And this is only my first world. One day in the future, I will be immortal. Lu Qiming smiled happily, then clicked on the adventurer profession. All the attributes that had previously reached SSS rank had reverted to I-0 to 99 after leveling up, but Lu Qiming was actually very happy about this. This meant he could grind experience again, rapidly increasing his strength by advancing the adventurer profession. For him now, the best way to increase his strength was to upgrade the adventurer profession. Every status increase could bring him a 0.1 bonus to all stats, and after accumulating to the maximum and leveling up to break through his life level, there would be another huge wave of improvement. As for the assassin profession, since each level now required a massive amount of experience, and the experience for his two professions did not interfere with each other, the adventurer profession was improving quickly simply because its level was still low. Moreover, once he found a way to hatch the seed of profession and advance to the third stage, the assassin profession would unlock the third-tier skill, Death God, and he believed he would see a brand new world then. Just then, the basement door was pushed open, and Belcranel and Lily walked in. Lord Qiming, Goddess, we're back. Saying this, Lily walked up to Lu Qiming and handed him a black card. Lord Qiming, this is the exchanged Valis, totaling 80 million. Thank you, Lily. Lu Qiming gently patted Lily's head but did not take the black card. Lily, you keep this Valis. Use it for any items or equipment you and Belcranel need normally. Lord Qiming, isn't this too much? It's fine. This small amount is enough for me to earn back just by casually strolling through the dungeon once. Lu Qiming waved his hand dismissively. He genuinely didn't care about this small amount of Valis. He still had a billion unused Valis on him, and the change from exchanging magic stones each time was enough for daily expenses. Thank you, Lord Qiming. Seeing that Lu Qiming truly didn't mind, Lily happily ran off to prepare dinner. She had wanted to replace Belcranel's armor for a long time, but the Valis Belcranel usually earned wasn't nearly enough, so she had to give up on the idea. Now that she had 80 million Valis, she would definitely go help Belcranel choose a good set of armor tomorrow. Just then, Hestia's even more triumphant laughter came from the sofa, and she muttered about how she should laugh at Loki tomorrow. It seems Belcrinel has also finished updating his status and even awakened his second skill, Heroic Wish. Tomorrow, the second stage of training must begin. Early the next morning, Hestia woke up early, changed into her newly bought dress, and left with a triumphant smile to attend Orario's quarterly Gods meeting, promising to secure a respectable title for Lu Qiming and Belle. The so-called Gods meeting was specially held by a group of bored gods to bestow titles upon the newly leveled up children of their respective familias. Lu Qiming and Belle's titles would also be decided at today's Gods meeting. Hehe, Teacher Qiming, what title do you think'll get? Will it be cool? Like Blazing Blizzard, or Tornado Typhoon? Should I get some cool new armor once I have a title? Beside him, Belle had been incredibly excited since learning last night that he would receive a title today. He even started fantasizing about what his title would be as soon as Hestia left. Lord Belle, while I don't think Blazing Blizzard, or Typhoon, sound particularly cool, you really should change your armor. Lily said, pulling the overly excited Belle towards the basement exit. Today, Lily, the rich loli with 80 million valis, would get Belle a brand new set of high-grade armor. Ah. Lily, wait. Belle struggled, turning his head to look at Lu Qiming. Teacher Qiming, what titles do you think we'll get? Will they be cool? Lu Qiming stood rooted, watching Belle being dragged away by Lily, and sighed helplessly. Looking at the excited, expectant Belle, he had no interest in Belle, whose title was already destined to be Little Rookie. He only hoped his own title wouldn't be the Blood Berserker that was already circulating in Orario. The thought of being an assassin with the Berserker title made Lu Qiming's head throb. Although Hestia confidently promised to secure a cool title for Lu Qiming before leaving, the titles were decided by a vote of all the gods. Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. Lu Qiming scratched his hair and walked out of the basement. He wouldn't go to the dungeon today. It had been several days since he last chatted with Sister Tia and the others. Today, he'd go have a good, long talk with them. On the street, Lu Qiming slowly walked towards Sister Tia's tea shop. However, today he felt that he was receiving much more attention than usual, with people pointing at him along the way. Under Lu Qiming's terrifying perception, he heard every word clearly. They were all discussing his achievement of leveling up to LV2 Adventurer in less than a week. In particular, several Amazonian female adventurers stared at him with wide eyes, talking about borrowing seeds. While Lu Qiming didn't object to their borrowing seeds, their talk about his next generation inheriting his berserker bloodline and becoming top adventurers made his already throbbing head ache even more. For this, he had no choice but to flash away from his spot, leaping across Orario's rooftops towards Sister Tia's tea shop. Soon, Lu Qiming leapt down from the rooftop, landing in front of Sister Tia's shop. Qiming, aren't you staying in the familia today? At the entrance, Sister Anya, who was lying there sunbathing, immediately noticed Lu Qiming landing in front of her and asked curiously. It was well known that adventurers usually stayed within their familia on the day they received their titles, waiting for their gods to return and inform them of their new titles. Sister Anya, you know as well as I do that everyone in Orario is saying my title is Blood Berserker. I'm clearly an assassin. I can't stand this injustice, so I came to you sisters for some comfort. Ha ha ha, Qiming, you, ha ha ha. Anya looked at Lu Qiming's expression and couldn't help but laugh, standing up and hugging him tightly. Come on, come on. Today, let your sisters comfort you properly. And I'll call Sister Tia, Sister Isis, and Sister Yilian. Plus, Sister Isis brought 2 good friends today. The 6 of us will have a good, heart-to-heart, with you, little brother. Ah. Sister Isis and Sister Yilian are here today, and they brought friends. Lu Qiming looked up at Sister Anya in surprise. Usually, Sister Isis and Sister Yilian were busy running their restaurants and only occasionally came to chat with him. He hadn't expected them to have time today, let alone bring 2 friends. Yes, it's the gods meeting today, so most adventurers are staying with their familias. Sister Isis and Sister Yilian closed their restaurants and came here. That Sister Anya, Sister Isis's friends are. You brat. Anya pretended to be angry and glanced at Lu Qiming, subtly pointing to a half-elf young lady passing by outside the door. Half-elf. Lu Qiming immediately understood Sister Anya's meaning and couldn't help but feel excited. You brat, you're energetic now, let's go. Anya gently tapped Lu Qiming's head and pulled him towards Sister Tia's room. The door opened, and Anya led Lu Qiming inside. Sister Tia and Sister Isis were chatting happily. When they saw Anya enter with Lu Qiming, they suddenly froze. Especially the two half-elf young ladies, whose pointed ears instantly turned crimson, and their watery eyes shyly stared at Lu Qiming. Sister Tia, Sister Isis, what were you talking about? Lu Qiming looked at the half-elf young ladies who were suddenly shy but staring at his chest with watery eyes, their gaze filled with curiosity and a desire to devour him whole. Nothing. Just talking about a sister's duty. Tia stood up with a smile, walked behind Lu Qiming, skillfully locked the door, and activated the soundproofing magic circle. A sister's duty. What's that, Sister Tia? Lu Qiming curiously looked at Sister Tia. As for locking the door, if Sister Tia hadn't locked it, he would have done it himself. Qiming, are you curious? Then your sister will teach you. With that, Sister Tia lay down on the bed, smiling at Lu Qiming. Beside her, Sister Isis stood up, her cat tail gently brushing past Lu Qiming's face as she walked over and lay down next to Sister Tia. Before Lu Qiming could say anything, the two half-elf young ladies shyly lowered their heads and also lay down. Come on, little brother Qiming, your sisters will tell you what a sister's duty is. At 9 in the evening, Lu Qiming returned to the Hestia Familia camp. The displeasure on his face from that morning had transformed into a cheerful smile, his whole demeanor seemed completely different. Yo! Lord God, Lily, I'm back. What's wrong with Belle? As soon as he entered the basement, Lu Qiming saw Belle, dressed in brand new armor, sitting on the sofa with a gloomy expression, like a dried fish who had lost its dreams. Lord Qiming, Lord Belle is just a little unhappy about his title. But Lord Qiming, where were you today? Lily said, curiously looking at Lu Qiming as he walked past her, sniffing lightly. Lord Qiming smells so good. But why are there 6 different scents? Lord God, what is Belle's title? Why is he so dejected? Belle's is, Little Rookie, and yours, Qiming, is, Black Reaper. Isn't it cool? Hestia smiled triumphantly. She had chosen this title, and even her arch-rival Loki hadn't objected. Black Reaper. Lu Qiming was momentarily stunned, and Li Shunsheng's line, one day, I will tear apart this sky of anti-armor, involuntarily came to mind. What's wrong, Qiming? Don't you like it? Hestia saw Lu Qiming frozen in place, not speaking, and thought he didn't like the title. No, I like this title very much, thank you, Lord God. Lu Qiming smiled slightly, then dismissed the thought. With divine judgment that dealt soul damage and the only alive to deal damage, magic that came with anti-armor, he was, Starry Sky, himself. Why would he need to tear it apart? HMPH. Qiming, as long as you like it, I've been thinking about this title for a long time. Hestia hummed triumphantly when she saw that Lu Qiming liked the title she gave him. Oh, right, Qiming, where did you go today? Cough cough. Well, Lord Goddess, I went to communicate with a few sisters about a sister's obligations, today. It took me a lot of effort to make them submit willingly. Lu Qiming scratched his head guiltily, his field quietly enveloping his body to prevent Hestia from smelling anything. Oh, so Qiming, you went to show some love today. Hestia leaned close to Lu Qiming and sniffed. After not smelling anything strange, she didn't pay it any mind. Showing love, showing love. Lu Qiming gave an awkward laugh. He had indeed been showing love all day, and now there wasn't a drop left, especially with those two half-elf young ladies who were excessively enthusiastic. Lord Goddess, I'm going to sleep now. Tomorrow, I plan to start leveling up in the dungeon. After speaking, Lu Qiming drilled into his bed and fell asleep. Hestia looked at the sleeping Lu Qiming and tilted her head in confusion. She didn't find anything amiss and just assumed Lu Qiming was tired from showing love today. The next day, dungeon entrance. Lu Qiming came here today with Belle Crenelle and Lily Diand, because Belle Crenelle said this morning that someone wanted to introduce himself, so Lu Qiming specifically did not enter the dungeon in advance. When the 3 of them arrived at the dungeon entrance, a man with fiery red hair and a large sword on his back walked over. Teacher Kimming, this is the new member of my party, Krazo Welf. He's a blacksmith. Just call him Welf. Belcranel introduced him to Lu Kimming happily. This was someone he and Lily Deand met yesterday when they went to buy new armor. Welf joined his party on the condition of becoming his exclusive blacksmith. Welf, is it? Lu Kimming looked at the man in front of him. In the original story, he was ostracized and isolated by people within his familia because he refused to forge magic swords. Later, to improve his own level and be able to forge stronger weapons, he joined Belcranel's party. However, he was actually a very good person. He believed that weapons should be an adventurer's partner and other half, and definitely not magic swords that would be destroyed after a few uses. But later, to help Belcranel, he still chose to violate his principles, truly a trustworthy person. Hello, Black Reaper. Welf stood nervously in front of Lu Kimming. Although Belcranel told him about Lu Kimming yesterday when he joined the party, when he stood before Lu Kimming, he felt like he was facing an existence of a completely different level, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Don't be nervous, just call me Lu Kimming or Kimming. You're a good person, keep up the good work. Lu Kimming smiled slightly after noticing Welf's unusual behavior. Because his adventurer level increased yesterday, his life essence improved again, and he was having a bit of trouble controlling his pressure. Yes, Lord Kimming. Just call me Kimming, and Lily, the same goes for you. Lu Kimming rubbed his chin helplessly. He really didn't like being called Lord, it made him feel a sense of unfamiliarity. No way. Lord Kimming saved Lily, and Lily likes calling you that. Lily Deand quickly explained when Lu Kimming mentioned her. Alright, but Welf, you can't. Why yes. Q Kimming. That's better. When I come back, I'll bring you some high-grade materials. Keep them to craft some equipment and items for your party then. Lu Kimming smiled and nodded, then turned and walked towards the dungeon. Behind him, Welf stared blankly at Lu Kimming's retreating back. He hadn't expected Lu Kimming, a top adventurer renowned in Orario, to be so easy to get along with. He had originally thought he would be kicked out of Belcranel's party by Lu Kimming today. How was it? Didn't I tell you, Welf? Teacher Kimming is actually a very gentle person. Belcranel patted Welf's shoulder and smiled. Then let's go, we also need to start our own adventure. With that, Belcranel was the first to walk towards the dungeon. 24th layer of the dungeon. Lu Kimming emerged from the shadows, looking at the 24th layer that had recovered again, a faint smile playing on his lips. Interesting. The next second, Lu Kimming merged back into the shadows and dived deeper. This time, he was here to level up, and since he had blown things up too much last time, the dungeon consciousness must be on guard. It was better to keep a low profile, farm the experience, and then blow things up again. 30th floor of the dungeon. Lu Kimming concealed his aura and slowly stepped out from the shadows. He hadn't touched a single monster on the floors above, mainly because the experience gained from those monsters was still decent even for a normal LV3 adventurer. But for Lu Kimming, who had strength and was accustomed to rapid advancement, it was too slow. Moreover, if he accidentally got carried away and blew up another floor of the dungeon, alarming the dungeon consciousness, then his experience farming journey for today would be over. Then today, I'll try the method of a false, cautious assassin. With that, Lu Kimming's body merged into the shadows again, silently approaching the monsters not far away. In a nearby passage, young dragons wandered around, occasionally raising their heads and roaring at the sky. Suddenly, the roar of a young dragon came to an abrupt halt, its eyes filled with disbelief. The next second, the young dragon's nearly 2-meter-sized head thumped onto the ground, turning into black ash, leaving only a magic stone. Nearby, other young dragons, seeing their companion die, looked around vigilantly, their roars continuously echoing. But it was completely useless. Even with their vigilance, young dragons continued to die. In just a few minutes, dozens of young dragons turned into magic stones and a few dropped items. Suddenly, the shadows beneath the magic stones and dropped items wriggled, swallowing them all, leaving only the empty ground. On this day, monsters below the 30th floor of the dungeon died one after another without a sound, the dark shadows like a bottomless maw continuously devouring life. 49th floor of the dungeon. Lu Qiming lurked in the shadows, quietly looking at the entrance to the 50th floor not far away. The 50th floor, originally a safe floor, now gave him a feeling of fatality and death. So you were waiting for me here. He took a deep look at the 50th floor, continuous monster roars emanating from the entrance passage. The next second, Lu Qiming turned around and headed back to the upper floors. He would return when he left. For now, it was better to go back to Orario and have a good chat with Sister Tia and the others. This was definitely not cowardice, just caution. Besides, he still had many things to do. How could he easily leave this world? On the 24th layer of the dungeon, familiar fireworks once again bloomed. Lu Qiming felt the dungeon consciousness rushing over in anger, gave a cold smile, and vanished from the spot. Since you plan to ambush me, it's not too much for me to blow up the dungeon, right? Ever since the day he sensed the dungeon's trap on the 50th floor, for the next month Lu Qiming kept grinding experience inside the dungeon as a fake assassin. Every day before leaving he would blow up the 24th layer, exchange the magic stones for Valis, and hand every drop to Welf to forge gear. At night he began the second phase of Bel's peerless assassin legacy. Lu Qiming taught Bel every move he had, sparring non-stop so Bel could learn Lu Qiming's techniques in battle and make them his own. Under the moonlight two silhouettes crisscrossed and separated on a patch of open ground beside a ruined church. Sparks from clashing weapons kept lighting up the dark night. The next second white light gathered around Bel, forming a several-meter-long sword of light. Gale dance. Bel vanished from where he stood, reappearing behind Lu Qiming. The sword of light in his hand slashed down without hesitation, its radiance turning into a storm that swallowed Lu Qiming's position. Boom. 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 Stone slabs turned to powder, flying everywhere under the shock wave of sword ki. Midair, Bel twisted his body. The moment his feet touched the ground he stamped hard, raised a palm and fired a firebolt at the dust cloud, then swung the now giant sword of light straight at the dark silhouette inside. Crack. As the light blade reached his head, Lu Qiming looked up, clenched a fist and punched. Bel's all-out strike shattered. Teacher Qiming, I lost again. Bel stood watching the light blade disperse to reveal the Hestia blade, which he slid back into its sheath, no frustration on his face, only joy. From being one-shot by a strength-suppressed Lu Qiming on the first day of training a month ago, to now trading blow for blow, Bel could clearly feel how much he had grown. All right, stop grinning. Pack up and head back. Tomorrow you can start on the middle floors. Lu Qiming walked over and clapped Bel on the shoulder. I've taught you everything I can, the rest is up to you. Teacher Qiming, does that mean you recognize me as a peerless assassin? Bel stared excitedly at Lu Qiming. Though reluctant to part, earning his idol's approval thrilled him. Dream on. Finish the final trial first. Final trial. What exactly is it? Bel looked puzzled. From day one of inheriting peerless assassin Lu Qiming had mentioned a final trial, yet never explained what it was. Final trial. Lu Qiming walked to a broken stone pillar, shaved its top flat and sat. Bel, you've met Sister Tia and the others. Do you know why they run a tea shop? Teacher Qiming, why? Bel froze. He saw the tea-selling girls every day, but had never thought about it. Why? Because someone kidnaps kids from other places, or orphans, and trains them for it. You think they do it willingly. Lu Qiming gave a cold laugh, gazing toward Orario's center where the largest pleasure quarter lay, dominated by the familia most guilty of this, Ishtar familia. And according to his investigations, many familias in Orario were involved, Ishtar and Ikilo's familia topping the list. How could they do that? Bel stared in disbelief, certain Lu Qiming wasn't lying yet unable to accept people could be so cruel. Why not? For money, to grow their familia, for, they don't mind such deeds. Haven't you seen what Soma familia members did for a sip of divine wine? Lu Qiming turned to look at Bel. Bel, after all that, you probably know what your final trial is. Teacher, you want me to wipe them out? Pretty much. I'll handle some familias before I leave. Ishtar familia is yours. And after I'm gone, if any adventurers try to bully Sister Tia and the others, look after them for me. Yes, teacher. I won't leave a single one. Bel flashed a cold smile, eyes on the brightly lit district in the distance, Ishtar familia's turf. Lord Bel, Lord Qiming, what are you talking about? Lily stepped out of the ruined church. Curious, she had never seen those expressions on their faces before. Nothing. Did you need something, Lily? Lu Qiming turned, smiling gently. Our goddess told me to call you back. She says Lord Bell needs rest tonight before his first middle floor dive tomorrow. We'll be right there. Lu Qiming hopped off the pillar, glanced at Bell and headed back. In the basement, Lu Qiming greeted Hestia and flopped onto the bed, opening his status panel. After a month's grind, his assassin had risen from LV 76 to LV 78, one level away from another skill point, and every adventure or mastery was now SS rank. All stats had gained another point. He was confident of maxing every mastery to SSS within a week, but the next breakthrough required great deeds from a floor master below the 50th floor. For now, dungeon consciousness barred him from entering, yet he didn't care. Once stats were capped, he'd simply push assassin to LV 80. Besides, in the original story, Bell's first middle floor trip ended with him falling to the 18th because of Takemikazuki Familia. But this time, with the assassin legacy complete, Lu Qiming was curious what Bell would become. After confirming his stats and plans, Lu Qiming closed his eyes and slept. The next day, at the dungeon entrance, Hestia and Lu Qiming watched Bell's party enter. They were about to leave. The point is to come back safe, understand? Yes. Makoto, even after leveling up, no reckless charges. Yes. Then we're off, Lord Takemikazuki. Seeing that, Hestia beamed and tugged Lu Qiming over. So those are the children of your familia, take. Oh, Hestia, and this must be the Black Reaper. Takemikazuki, in white priest-like garb, turned to Hestia and pulled along Lu Qiming with a smile. Greetings, Lord Takemikazuki, just call me Lu Qiming. Take, your children are off to the middle floors too. Your little rookie's about the same. But the Black Reaper isn't going with them. Takemikazuki studied Lu Qiming. Normally Orario's top adventurer would escort Bell on his first middle floor trip. Qiming says Bell can handle the middle floors now, and today Qiming's off to spread some love. Spread love. Takemikazuki glanced at Lu Qiming. It was the first he'd heard of it. Just giving certain ladies and scum a little love. Lu Qiming grinned, eyes toward the distant tea shop run by Sister Tia. At the dungeon's entrance at dawn, two deities watched their children set off on their first mid-level expedition, then bade farewell to a black-haired youth who was off to spread some love. At that moment, Takemikazuki looked at the ground and asked, Hestia, did you know? They say the dungeon's been shaking every single day this past month. Earthquakes. Yeah, though I figure it's just coincidence. Takemikazuki gave an unconcerned chuckle, said goodbye to Hestia, and walked off into the distance. Probably not coincidence. But at least today, no quake. Hestia murmured to his retreating back, too far away, he never heard. After all, the very culprit behind today's tremor had gone to spread love. Meanwhile, Lu Qiming headed straight to Sister Tia's tea shop. The moment he stepped in, Sister Tia smiled and handed him a sheet of paper. Qiming, here's the list we secretly compiled. Are you sure you're going alone? Tia looked at him, worried. Relax, Sister Tia. Just be ready to receive the ones I rescue, leave the rest to me. Lu Qiming took the list, gave Sister Tia a light hug, and walked out. Today he really was here to spread love, in every sense, for the saved and for the dead. Ever since last month, he had handed every valis he earned to Sister Tia and the others. Under the cover of hiring new tea-serving girls, they had mapped every familia and location in Orario involved in the trade. Then, closest one first. Lu Qiming glanced down at the first address on the list, a warehouse in the western slums. With his destination set, his body melted into shadow and shot skyward toward the west. At that moment, inside a warehouse in the western slums, several dozen adventurers sat in a circle, eating while glancing back at the new stock, deeper inside. Boss, how many valis do you reckon we'll get once this batch sells? How many? A beastman laughed, yanked a pouch from his belt and slammed it on the table. Valis spilled out in a glittering heap. Here's 80 million from the last lot. This batch is even better quality, name your price. The surrounding adventurers stared, greedy. For a month now, mysterious buyers had swept up every product in Orario. Rumor said they'd even cleared the competition stock. Within half a month the entire city's inventory had vanished, with the buyers leaving word, "Bring anything you've got, we'll take it all." Every trafficker and familia had rushed their stock back to Orario, and to keep the goods from escaping or dying en route, every last one of them had returned to the city. Still, boss, any idea what those people want with so many slaves? A man in black armor asked, curious. Who cares what they do? Long as I get my valis, they can feed him to monsters for all I care. The beastman scooped the coins back into his pouch, walked to the iron cage behind them, pointed at a 20-year-old half-elf and roared with laughter. You, out. I've kept you lot locked up a whole full week just to stay safe. The other thugs laughed, closed in on the cage where terrified women of every race huddled together, girls as young as 13 or 14, none older than 20-odd. Boss, I spotted that piece back when I wiped out her family, would have had her then if the city guard hadn't shown up. Boss, I want that little palom. Haha, aren't we generous? They'll probably die after they're sold, at least we let 'em feel pleasure first. Ha ha ha. Inside the cage, the older girls pulled the youngest children behind them, shielding them even in despair. Someone, please save us. Screech, the iron door opened. The scum adventurers swaggered in, their twisted laughter rising as they watched their merchandise shrink back in terror. Boom. An explosion tore through the roof, sunlight flooded the cage. The half-elf girl, Rose, had squeezed her eyes shut, but when the cruel laughter suddenly died she opened them. Everyone was staring ahead of her, frozen. Miss, could you cover the children's eyes for me? A gentle voice sounded above Rose. She looked up. In the sunlight a black-haired youth stood smiling kindly, one hand locked around the wrist that had reached for her. Who are you? Me. Just someone here to spread a little love. Lu Qiming kicked the captured beastman flying. There were cute little girls watching, too much gore would traumatize them. Spread love. Yep. For you, and for the trash. He smiled at the girls now bright-eyed inside the cage, yet murderous rage boiled within him. Filthy scum. Though Sister Tia had warned him, seeing it with his own eyes still pushed him past the brink. Miss, may I ask a favor? What? Look out. Before Rose could reply, the stunned thugs recovered, blades flashing straight for Lu Qiming's head. Crack. Arg. An instant later every attacker lay screaming, blood gushing from wounds that had slit open across their bodies. Ignoring the wretches, Lu Qiming smiled at the girl. Once I mop up this trash, take the children and follow the people who'll come for you. They'll bring you somewhere safe. He turned, calm, toward the furious adventurers outside the cage. Are you ready to die? Inside a warehouse with a large hole in the roof, a young man calmly faced a group of burly men. His two short swords seemed weak and powerless compared to the long swords and broadswords held by the men opposite him, yet that group kept retreating, their faces filled with fear. Black Reaper, do you know what you are doing? At this moment, the beastman Lu Qiming had kicked away staggered to the front, wiping the medicine from the corner of his mouth as he glared angrily at Lu Qiming. What am I doing? Naturally, I'm cleaning up the scum. Otherwise, what else do you think I'd be doing? Lu Qiming slightly raised his head, a faint cold smirk hanging on his lips as he looked ahead. Attack. I refuse to believe that all of us can't take down an LV2 adventurer like you. When the beastman heard Lu Qiming's words, he knew that today's matter wouldn't be resolved so easily. It wasn't as if adventurers bursting with a sense of justice hadn't tried to do the same thing as Lu Qiming before, but those people were still alive and well now. So many people. It seems you still haven't figured out the situation. You are all surrounded by me. Lu Qiming's figure flickered, and he appeared behind the beastman, smiling. The next second, the beastman, who was about to speak, and the adventurers who had just rushed toward the cage all covered their throats. Blood flowed continuously, and they collapsed onto the ground, twitching in agony. See, I told you that you were surrounded by me. Lu Qiming casually glanced at the numerous pieces of scum lying on the ground. If he hadn't been worried about scaring the young ladies in the cages, they wouldn't have died so easily. Afterward, Lu Qiming took out a crystal ball from his embrace and crushed it. It was an item he had specially commissioned Welf to forge. It didn't have much function, except that when he crushed this crystal, the corresponding one held by Sister Tia would shatter. Wait here for a moment. Someone will come to pick you up soon. After Lu Qiming finished speaking, he flew directly out of the hole at the top of the warehouse. There was still a lot of scum waiting for him to clean up today. Just 1 minute after Lu Qiming left, while the young ladies in the cages were still at a loss, the warehouse door opened and Isis, who had a pair of white cat ears, walked in and took them all away. Next, these rescued young ladies would be asked about their hometowns. Those with families would be sent back, and those without would choose to learn something according to their own wishes and settle down in Orario from then on. On this day, all adventurer familia involved in this industry suffered a fatal blow. Their external strongholds were all dismantled, and the young ladies captured inside were all rescued. As for the adventurers stationed there, not a single one survived. Moreover, when the residents near the strongholds heard the sounds of those adventurers dying, they quickly sealed their doors and windows. As people who had always lived nearby, they had long sensed what was going on inside. It wasn't that no one wanted to report it to the Adventurers Guild, but every person who went to report it never returned alive. Since then, the nearby residents had all chosen to ignore it, only making sure to watch over their own children. In the evening, Lu Qiming walked out of a house. Blood flowed down the steps like a river. When he was halfway through the slaughter, the remaining scum received the news and gathered together, planning to fight to the death. But it was useless. It only saved Lu Qiming travel time, allowing him to sweep them all away in one go. Now, all the scum, excluding the Ishtar familia and the Ikilos familia, had been completely wiped out by Lu Qiming. During this time, it wasn't that no gods appeared while he was slaughtering their children, but they all chose silence. After all, for the gods of familia who engaged in such activities, returning to heaven for some expendable children was completely unwarranted. Qiming, what should we do next? Tia walked out from behind Lu Qiming. All the young ladies recently transported back to Orario had been rescued. Even when the two major familia evacuated, only the familia adventurers left, abandoning all the transported young ladies where they were. Let's go back. Lu Qiming glanced at the locations of the nearby Ishtar familia and Ikilos familia. The Ishtar familia was the trial mission he had left for Belcranel. As for the Ikilos familia, their main members were still hunting sentient monsters in the dungeon. Destroying the Ikilos familia now would only mean killing the peripheral members and unimportant people. Why not wait until he forced the core members of the Ikilos familia back from the dungeon and then capture them all in one fell swoop? Now, because of this great massacre he initiated, these familia wouldn't dare to go out and do such things again for a short period. As for the future, they no longer had one. Let's go back. And thank you, Qiming. Tia glanced in the direction of the two major familia far away. She knew Lu Qiming had his own plans, and her job was to arrange things properly for the young ladies who had been rescued. By the way, Qiming, do you want to meet the people you rescued? They all want to thank you properly. No, I won't go. Sister Tia, arrange for those with families to be sent back. As for those who remain, there will be opportunities to meet them in the future. I'm heading back to the familia compound first. Belcranel went to the middle floors for the first time today, he should be returning soon. Lu Qiming smiled slightly at Sister Tia and walked directly towards the Hestia familia compound. Then, Qiming, remember to come to Sister's tea shop tomorrow night. Your sisters all want to thank you properly. Tia watched Lu Qiming walk away, then turned around and headed toward the tea shop. She still had many things to arrange. All those with families needed to be scheduled for return soon. As for those whose families had been killed, the talented ones could become adventurers or choose to learn something to live in Orario. Hestia familia compound. As soon as Lu Qiming returned, he saw the Takemikazuki familia gathered there, along with Hephaestus, Aphius whom he had met once, and the god Hermes. Lord Goddess, what happened here? Looking at the crowd gathered in his familia compound, Lu Qiming walked inside and looked at Hestia, who was standing at the very front. Did Belcranel still get used as a shield by the Takemikazuki familia members to escape, just like in the original story? Qiming tilde. At the front, Hestia, who was originally trying to maintain composure, instantly burst into tears upon seeing Lu Qiming and flew toward him. Belcranel was left behind in the middle floors trying to save them. Left behind in the middle floors to save them. Lu Qiming caught Hestia, gently patted her back, and looked toward the Takemikazuki familia members. We are sorry. It's all because of us. Seeing Liu Qiming's gaze fall upon them, the Takemikazuki familia members all lowered their heads and began to explain. Today, because one of their familia members was seriously injured, and they encountered a dungeon riot where a large number of monsters surrounded them, Belcranel discovered them and rescued the group without hesitation. However, in order for their seriously injured companion to survive, the Takemikazuki familia members abandoned Belcranel, who had saved them, and immediately left the dungeon, leading to the current situation. We are truly sorry. Stop. Don't say any more. Liu Qiming directly interrupted their apologies. What they did this time was even worse than in the original story. In the original story, they led the monsters chasing them toward Belcranel to escape, but this time, they directly abandoned him after he saved them. They were also desperately trying to survive. I am truly sorry. Beside them, Takemikazuki looked at the cold-faced Liu Qiming, walked over to his children, and bowed in apology. If Belcranel doesn't come back, I will hate you with all my heart. But I won't harbor malice. I mean what I say. At this moment, Hestia turned to look at the regretful Takemikazuki familia members and slowly stretched out her hand. Could you, please lend me a hand? We obey your command. Opposite her, the Takemikazuki familia members froze upon seeing Hestia like this. The next second, all of them knelt on one knee and bowed their heads. Hestia looked at the people before her, a faint smile appearing on her face, filled with the gods, tolerance and benevolence. Qiming, I'm also counting on you for this mission to rescue Belcranel. Rest assured, Lord Goddess. At this moment, Hermes walked over. First, he leaned close to Liu Qiming, looked him over carefully, and smiled mysteriously. Black Reaper, you really did something incredible today. After speaking, he turned his head to look at Hestia. Hestia, let me help too. Hermes. Hestia looked at Hermes in surprise, never expecting him to offer help. Well, actually, I'm enough if I go alone. Liu Qiming first glanced at Hermes. As for the matter he just mentioned, Liu Qiming never thought it could be hidden from the gods of Warario. Even if they didn't notice initially, it would definitely be discovered as more and more people died. No way. Hearing Liu Qiming's words, the Takemikazuki familia members quickly stood up and looked at Liu Qiming. It's all because of us that Lord Belcranel is trapped deep in the dungeon. If we don't go. Stop. Save your apologies until I bring Belcranel back. As for going now, to put it nicely, you'd be helping, but in reality, you'd just be dragging me down. The group lowered their heads upon hearing Liu Qiming's words. Although they were displeased, what Liu Qiming said was the truth. In that case, Lord Goddess, I will head to the dungeon first. After Liu Qiming finished speaking, thunder rumbled, and he transformed into a streak of lightning, flying toward the dungeon entrance. Below, Hestia watched Liu Qiming fly away. Her original idea of forming a rescue team faded away. Now, she could only hope that Belcranel could hold out until Liu Qiming arrived. By the way, Hermes, you just said Qiming did something huge today. What exactly happened? When Hestia learned that Belcranel was trapped in the dungeon today, Liu Qiming was the first person she thought of, but she couldn't find him, which is why the scene Liu Qiming returned to unfolded. Of course, it was. Hermes looked at the curious people around him and revealed everything Liu Qiming had done today. Meanwhile, at the dungeon entrance, adventurers were leaving in dense crowds when suddenly someone pointed at the sky and shouted. What is that? The others all raised their heads, but before they could clearly see it, a streak of lightning flashed past them and flew directly toward the depths of the dungeon. At this moment, dungeon, 15th layer. Dense swarms of monsters surrounded Bel and his two companions. The ground was already covered with magic stones and drops, indicating that they had killed many monsters. Bel was panting heavily, vigilantly looking ahead. Lily and Welf beside him weren't in much better shape. This was the result of Bel alone killing most of the monsters. If Bel hadn't completed the Peerless Assassin class inheritance and greatly increased his strength this past month, Bel's party might have been wiped out by now. What a joke, they don't even give us time to breathe. Welf, struggling to stand, hacked away at the attacking monsters, sending them flying. In midair, the monsters turned into black ash, and magic stones dropped to the ground. No time for chit-chat either. Lily said, raising her hand. The hand crossbow on her wrist shot a volley of arrows, pinning a group of monsters in place. The next second, Bel's figure flickered, and the Hestia blade in his hand swung, eliminating all the monsters Lily had pinned. Lily, Welf, I'm sorry. It's all my fault that things turned out this way. Bel retreated to their side, staring at the monsters ahead as he apologized. If he hadn't been soft-hearted and saved that group, they wouldn't have been surrounded by an endless stream of monsters. Now, instead of escaping the dungeon, they were forced deeper into it. What are you talking about, Bel? It was everyone's decision. We just didn't expect them, who seemed decent, to abandon us directly. Welf said, kicking a monster in front of him flying. It wasn't just Bel who decided to save the Takemikazuki familia. They decided to save them when they saw that the group, even when deeply surrounded, was unwilling to abandon their companions. They just didn't expect them to abandon them the next second, leaving them behind to cover their retreat. Welf, look out. Suddenly, Lily cried out, raising her wrist and aiming it above Welf. Roar. A hellhound took advantage of Welf's momentary distraction and charged over. Thanks to Lily's timely discovery, the gaping maw that was aiming for Welf's head was barely dodged, only biting his arm. Welf. The moment Bel saw Welf get injured, he threw his Hestia blade, killing the hellhound with one strike. Are you alright? Yeah, I'm fine, mostly. Welf endured the pain and threw Bel's Hestia blade back to him, then looked ahead. Why are there so many monsters in the middle layers, and why did they come so fast? It's completely different from the upper layers. Because this is the middle layer, and we've also encountered a monster feast. Lily said, secretly glancing at Welf's constantly bleeding wound. But now, they had no healing potions, and only one stamina potion left. An entire afternoon of non-stop fighting had almost depleted all their potions. Lily, I'll open a path in a bit. You take Welf and go through the passage to the lower layer. We're going to the 18th layer. Bel suddenly turned back and called out. As they fought continuously, they kept getting closer to the passage to the next layer. After confirming that they couldn't return to the upper layers, Bel remembered Lu Qiming once told him about a safe layer in the dungeon where monsters wouldn't spawn. And the 18th layer, 3 layers below them, was the closest. But, Lord Bel, you. Lily. Bel's entire body began to emit a milky white glow, continuously converging on the Hestia blade. You two go first, I'll catch up right away. Yes. Lord Bel. Lily saw Bel begin to burn with longing and knew this was not the time to hesitate. She walked directly to Welf and looked at the passage to the next layer in the distance. Stay close to me. Seeing that the two were ready, Bel shouted and charged out. Spiral Pierce. The light sword swung rapidly, and Bel's body rushed forward. A large amount of sword light formed a spiral around Bel, and all monsters that approached him were cut into pieces and turned into magic stones. In just a few seconds, a path leading directly to the lower layer entrance was opened. Lily and Welf rushed through it, heading straight down. Bel stood at the entrance, watching the monsters surge in again, and directly raised his hand as the light from his entire body began to converge. Firebolt. The crimson flames turned milky white, and the terrifying high temperature instantly melted the approaching monsters. Lord Bel, hurry. At this moment, Lily's voice came from the passage. Bel looked ahead, then immediately turned and ran inside. However, a few seconds after he left, a large number of monsters charged out, ignoring the flames. Firebolt. Bel looked at the monsters chasing into the passage, raised his hand, and aimed upwards. The flames shattered a large amount of rock above, instantly burying the pursuing monsters and blocking the passage entrance. In the dark passage, the 3 temporarily safe individuals breathed a sigh of relief and all smiled. Lily, do we still have any healing potions? Bel stepped forward, checked Welf's wound, and then looked at Lily. Welf's right hand was completely fractured from the hellhound's bite, and a large amount of blood was continuously flowing out. If this continued, Welf would die from excessive blood loss. Lord Bel, the healing potions are all used up. There's only one stamina potion left. Lily said, lowering her head. She also knew that if Welf's current condition wasn't treated quickly, he would die. Now, they could only temporarily bandage it to prevent rapid blood loss. What bad luck. Welf looked up with a bitter smile, gazing at Lily who was bandaging him and Bel who was on alert. Bel, Lily, if things go south, leave me and escape. I'll try my best to buy you some time at the end. Welf. What are you saying? Lily and Belle looked at Welf in shock, staring intently at him. How could they abandon their companion? Anyway, in this situation, I'll only be a hindrance. If things go wrong, leaving me behind can buy you some time, and then you'll have a greater hope of escaping to the 18th layer. Even so, I will never abandon you. Yes, I will definitely not abandon my companions again. Lily said, looking up at the upper layers, then at the two of them. Besides, we haven't returned yet. Lord Hestia and Lord Kimming must have noticed. Maybe Lord Kimming has already entered the dungeon and is looking for us. With Lord Kimming's strength, he'll definitely find us quickly, and then we can all go back alive. Yes, Teacher Kimming must be coming for us. Welf, hold on, don't give up. Welf looked at the two beside him who refused to give up on him, a slight smile on his lips. He made a decision in his heart. For them, he would go against his principles if necessary. Let's go. Before Teacher Kimming finds us, we can't just sit around and wait. Let's head to the 18th layer first. Belle said, supporting Welf beside him and walking forward. At this moment, Welf suddenly remembered something. What about the floor master? That behemoth is on the 17th layer, right? As for Goliath, Lord Kimming killed it a while ago, so it probably hasn't revived yet. Lily walked behind the two with her head down. Although she said that, with the current monster feast, Goliath's revival time would be greatly shortened. But what they needed now was hope, so they could only hope that Goliath hadn't revived yet. Dungeon 16th floor. On the ash-white ground, Belle and the other two supported one another as they headed downward, yet all three stared ahead in despair. There, 4 minotaurs wielding gigantic stone axes blocked the only path forward. Impossible. What is this? You've got to be kidding me. Welf staggered to steady himself, staring ahead in disbelief. Roar! Ahead, one minotaur roared and charged, raising its several-meter-long stone axe high. Boom! The earth quaked, clouds of dust and stone shards burst skyward. Lily, get Welf out of here. Through the dust, Lily and Welf were flung aside. Belle shouted, spun, and rushed the minotaur, darting swiftly, eyes locked on its neck. Roar! Seeing their kin fail to finish the other three minotaurs bellowed and charged together. Ultimate kill slash. As the dust settled, a huge ox head thudded beside Belle. He kicked it toward the oncoming trio, then snatched the fallen minotaur's stone axe and looked up at the three red-eyed monsters. White motes of light gathered along the axe, illuminating Belle and the minotaurs. That is. Not far away, Lily and Welf stared at the radiance gathering on the weapon. Belle crouched, gripped the axe with both hands, and leapt high. Midair, the white light revealed his resolute face, eyes filled with determination. Boom! A titanic explosion echoed across the 16th floor, boulders flew, the shock wave shattered nearby pillars, and a storm of grit followed. When the dust cleared, a vast crater yawned. Belle stood at its rim, deep cracks spidering outward underfoot. Incredible! Welf gaped at the figure ahead, like a comic book hero from his childhood, bringing hope to the hopeless. Lord Belle. The next instant Lily sprinted forward. Belle had already sunk to one knee, spent. Are you all right? Lily gazed anxiously at the blood-covered Belle. Forced overdraft of his aspiration had drained his stamina and mana, leaving him gasping. Lily-chan, how's Belle? Welf, clutching his wounded arm, hobbled over, worry-ridden across his face. Lord Belle forced another aspiration burn, his strength and mana are gone. She produced their last stamina potion and poured it down his throat. Thanks, Lily. The potion eased his pain. Recovering stamina let his empty mana pool refill. Belle pushed himself up, gave the two a reassuring smile. Of the three, Welf was badly hurt, Lily nearly spent, only he could still fight. He had to hold on. Let's go. Reach the 17th floor and we'll be in safe territory. He led the way. The entrance to the 17th floor was close. Right. Lily pocketed the 4 Minotaur magic stones, supported Welf, and followed, though exhaustion slowed them to a crawl. Arc flash. Sword light flashed. Belle sent the last 3 orc heads flying, their stones clattering down. Huff, huff, huff. Gasping, Belle stared ahead. The 17th floor entrance was near. Safety beckoned. Lily, Welf, we. He turned to urge them into the entrance, only to find both collapsed from exhaustion and blood loss. Without hesitation Belle went back, Even carrying the unconscious two slashed his own odds of escape. Ah! Ha! Ha! Across the ash-white ground Bell inched forward, arms wrapped around Lily and Welf, dragging them toward the nearby 17th floor. Behind him, Welf's greatsword and Lily's pack, containing all their spoils, lay abandoned. 17th floor. The instant he entered, Bell's keen senses screamed danger, a terrifying aura blanketed the floor. He glanced toward the exit a few hundred meters away. Then he noticed the wall beside him gleaming strangely. So this is the Wall of Lamentation. Known as the Wall of Despairing Sighs, it had trapped countless adventurers en route to the 18th layer, leaving them forever on the 17th. Ha! Bell exhaled, eyeing the exit ahead. Pass it and the three of them would be safe. He hoisted Lily and Welf and dashed, squeezing out his last reserves of stamina. The moment he set foot on the floor, the Wall of Lamentation convulsed. Cracks webbed across its once smooth face, and a titanic shadow appeared within. Massive blocks tumbled as the Goliath stirred. Roar! Atop the wall a colossal head emerged, blood-red pupils locking onto the fleeing Bell. A piercing roar rang out as an arm burst free, swiping down at him. Ah! Run! 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 Each breath scorched his lungs, his legs throbbed numb. Behind him, the despairing roar and the huge hand sweeping overhead drove Bell to tap every last ounce of potential, sprinting those final dozen meters toward the exit. Roar! Fully freed, the Goliath bellowed skyward, eyes fixed on the fleeing figure, sensing a scent that stirred soul deep, death-defying fury etched into its very blood. Roar! With a titanic roar the beast crouched, muscles coiling. Spotting Bell only 10 meters from the exit, it stamped with monstrous force and launched itself like a black missile. Boom! The Goliath's colossal frame crashed down, sealing the exit. The impact hurled Bell through the air, Lily and Welf torn from his grasp and sent sprawling. A figure dozens of meters tall slammed to the ground, its fury and blood-laden face locked on the white-haired boy hurled through the air ahead. At that look of despair, the Goliath let out an inexplicable roar. Lily, Welf. In midair Bell glanced at the two flying off into the distance, but with his mana exhausted the stamina potion's boost was already spent, he couldn't resist the shockwave that had blasted him away. Bang! 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 The next instant all three crashed to the ground, rolled several times, and only stopped when they slammed into the wall behind them. Lord Bell! Bell! Ah! By the wall the two who'd been unconscious woke to sudden agony. Welf, landing badly, took fresh damage on his already wounded arm, pale bone punched through flesh and jutted out. Lily, Welf, are you all right? Hearing their voices, Bell struggled to his feet and looked at the pair sprawled nearby. The sight of Welf's exposed bone made his eyes snap wide. Roar! Across from them the Goliath bellowed, its colossal frame charged again, and the entire 17th floor shook beneath its strides. Firebolt! Spotting the charge, Bell quickly raised his hand. If the monster reached them now, Lily and Welf would die here. Crimson flame struck the Goliath's head, halting its rush. Lily, Welf, run. You have to live. Bracing against the wall, Bell rose, glanced at the two beside him, then drew the Hestia blade and charged straight at the Goliath. He would never let friends or family die before him. Lord Bell. Tears streamed as Lily watched him sprint away. She knew Bell was staking his life so she and Welf could survive. Lily girl, can you still walk? Welf stood, giving her a wildly out-of-place grin. Welf. Lily, live, for me and for Bell. He glanced at the jutting bone. His weapon had probably been tossed while he was out. Only one option left. He gripped the exposed bone with his left hand, bit down on his sleeve, and with a wrench that sent blood flying snapped his own arm bone free. Welf, what are you doing? Lily stared, stunned he could do such a thing. Making a weapon, of course. He turned the sharp end upward, channeled his last mana into it, flames licked away the remaining flesh, leaving a sword of bone in his grip. Lily, run. With that he looked at Bell battling the Goliath in the distance and sprinted to join him. Lord Bell. Lily wiped her tears, glanced once at the entrance to the 18th floor, then raced up toward the upper levels. She believed Liu Qiming must already be inside the dungeon. Welf, you. Bell dodged a mana blast, then stared at the one-armed Welf gripping a bone sword. His heart shook. It's all because I'm still too weak. If only I had Teacher Qiming's power. Don't worry, it's just an arm. Welf smiled lightly, stepped beside Bell, and with resolute eyes aimed his bone sword at the Goliath's gaping maw. Burn away, heretical karma. A limitless jet burst from the bone sword. The Goliath's gathering mana cannon exploded inside its mouth, shredding flesh and exposing white bone. But before they could rejoice, flesh regrew over the skeleton. Within seconds it had healed. Roar. The huge head lowered, its crimson eyes fixed on the two below. The maw opened again, visible mana gathering. Burn away. Welf raised the bone sword once more, but with his last mana spent he couldn't trigger another spell. Boom. 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 A hail of mana blasts rained down, explosions and flying rubble swallowed the battlefield in dust. When the dust settled, a blood-soaked Bell stood over the fallen Welf. Blood pooled, the shattered bone sword scattered beside him. Bell bit his lip as Welf collapsed. Without that shield he would be the one lying there. Welf, thank you. I'll win, we'll all go home together. Only those who stake their lives deserve to be called heroes. To protect friends and save those you love, risk everything. Setbacks don't matter, blows don't count, winners are born from the defeated. Carry your wish to the end, shout your dream aloud. That is the coolest kind of man. Step by step Bell walked forward, Grandpa's childhood words echoing in his mind. He strode past Welf in the blood, Hestia blade clenched, blood dripping from the hilt, pace quickening into a charge. Brilliant white motes of light appeared, radiance burst from Bell's body as if endless mana and stamina now surged within. The Hestia blade shone, lengthening into a 40-meter blade of light. In the blood behind him, Welf lifted his head and stared at that retreating figure. Bell's tattered shirt revealed the divine hieroglyphs on his back flashing brightly. Heroic wish. Roar. Across the way the Goliath howled, crimson pupils locked on the charging figure below, lethal threat driving it to greater fury. Gale scattered dance. Below, Bell vanished, hands tight on the sword grip, countless blades of light filled the air and instantly enveloped the Goliath. Roar. The monster's anguished roar rang out as blood sprayed from countless wounds, its blocking arms were shredded, the sword-like carving scars across the floor behind it. Amid the storm of blades the Goliath instinctively crouched, using its own flesh to shield the magic stone within. In midair Bell halted the sweeping light sword, kicked off empty air and soared higher, raising the blade overhead as radiance poured into it and the weapon extended again. Ultimate kill slash. With a shout he flipped and dived, the unstoppable sword cleaving straight toward the Goliath below. Boom. The 17th floor quaked. Under the blazing slash the Goliath's body was ground away bit by bit, exposing the magic stone at its core. Firebolt. High above, Bell raised his hand, gathered his last mana and shattered the exposed magic stone, then plummeted helplessly. Lord Bell. From the entrance of the 17th floor Lily screamed. A streak of lightning flashed through the air and caught the falling Bell. Teacher Kimming, you came. Yes. Congratulations, Bell, on beginning your own heroic journey. Lu Kimming looked at the magic stone left where the Goliath had fallen and smiled. His inheritor no longer needed constant worry. It was about time he prepared for his own next adventure. Lord Kimming, hurry over. Down below, Lily had already spotted Welf lying in a pool of blood. His breathing was nearly gone from the grievous wound and blood loss. Coming, don't worry, he won't die. Lu Kimming stepped lightly on the air, brought Bell with him, and landed beside Welf. He shattered a top-grade healing potion over the man's body, then had Lily pour another down his throat. Moments later every cut on Welf had closed, his breathing steady. The lost arm would have to wait until they were back in Orario, where a top physician could regenerate the limb. Lu Kimming had no doubt it could be done. Gods walked this world, and countless adventurers entered the dungeon daily, not every one of them escaped such injuries. Yet no one was ever left maimed, so limb-regenerating doctors had to exist, cost was irrelevant. Bell, carry Welf and let's head back. Lu Kimming turned to Bell, who had drunk a potion and recovered a little. Yes, Teacher Kimming. Bell stepped forward and looked at the one-armed Welf. Had the smith not taken Goliath's final blow for him, he might already be dead. Let's go. It's time to return, our goddess, and those who abandoned you are waiting. Once Bell had Welf on his back, Lu Kimming started straight for the upper floors. Behind him, Bell and Lily froze at his words, then followed, both wearing strange expressions. Lu Kimming noticed their looks but said nothing. He would have felt the same had he saved others only to be abandoned and nearly get his own companions killed. How Bel settled the matter after returning would be left to them. Lord Kimming, were those the people who informed Lady Hestia and you? From behind, Lily suddenly lifted her head and asked. Pretty much. They're from the Takemikazuki familia, their god is a close friend of Lady Hestia. Once they heard, they came to our familia, planning to mount a rescue together, but I came ahead because they were too slow. Lu Kimming nodded, then turned to Bel. Bel, whatever you decide, I'll back you, Lady Hestia will too, I'm sure. I understand, Teacher Kimming. Bel, still carrying Welf, nodded and fell silent again. The group walked out of the dungeon in silence. Monsters along the way had already been swept aside by Lu Kimming. Lily, who had come looking for him, had met him only minutes after he left the 17th floor. Hestia Familia. When Lu Kimming returned with the blood-covered trio, everyone fell quiet, especially the Takemikazuki Familia, whose members hung their heads at the sight of Welf on Bel's back. Had they not fled, Bel's group would never have ended up like this. The blood covering them told of what they had endured that day. Bel, welcome home. Hestia smiled softly, walked up to Bel, and gently hugged him. I'm back, Lady Hestia. Bel held her tightly, feeling the familiar warmth calm his heart. Beside them, Hermes watched the white-haired boy, the corner of his mouth lifting. Zeus, is this the child you chose for the next age? Bel, I'm sorry. Takemikazuki led his familia forward and apologized sincerely. No need. I know they did it for their own companions. Bel clenched his fist. He had meant to kill them all once back, but seeing the grievously wounded Welf, he understood their choice, abandon strangers to save friends. Understanding, however, did not erase the anger. Understanding did not mean he could swallow the anger. Sensing this, the Takemikazuki captain, Sakura, glanced at his teammates. The decision had been his, so now. Bel, thank you for saving us. I was the one who chose to abandon you, my responsibility alone. With those words Sakura drew his longsword and, before anyone could react, flipped it and drove it toward his own heart. Sakura. Captain, don't. The Takemikazuki familia cried out in shock, but Sakura's sudden action gave them no time to stop him. Clang. Steel rang as Bel batted the blade aside. Sakura stared in disbelief. Bel should hate him, why stop him? I don't want Lady Hestia to grieve. Your god is her close friend. If you died, it would drive a wedge between her and Lord Takemikazuki. Bel looked calmly at the man who had truly meant to atone with his life. But, if not that, how can I ever apologize? How you apologize is for me to decide, not you. Bel's Hestia blade flashed. An arm flew free, blood twisting into strange shapes in midair. Smack. The severed limb rolled to the Takemikazuki member's feet. Sakura, enduring the pain, stared at Bel, not caring about the lost arm. He had been ready to die. An arm for an arm, let it end here. We're still alive, after all. Bel sheathed the Hestia blade and turned away from them. Thank you. Sakura bowed deeply in gratitude, and the rest of his familia followed suit. Whatever you need, I'll risk my life to help, and I'll never abandon companions again, I swear on my life. With those words the Takemikazuki familia picked up the severed arm and left, led by their god. Bel, you've grown up. Hestia stroked his hair, pleased. Had Bel chosen to kill Sakura she would have supported him, but his restraint showed new maturity. Thank you, Lady Hestia. All right, let's restore Welf's arm next. Hephaestus, silent until now, stepped forward. She had already taken Welf from Bel's back to examine the wound. Lady Hephaestus, I'm sorry, Welf is like this because of me. Bel lowered his head to her in apology. Enough. It was Welf's choice, and as a goddess I'm happy he has companions worth giving everything for. Hephaestus looked at the still unconscious Welf. His stubborn refusal to forge magic items had isolated him in the Hephaestus familia. Now he had found friends he would sacrifice for, why blame Bel? I'll take him for treatment. With that, Hephaestus carried Welf away. Hermes and Mayak followed. Watching Hephaestus leave, Bel wanted to say something, but he raised a hand only to let it drop again. Better to wait until Welf recovered and then apologize properly. Bel, you and Lily should go back and rest first. Hestia looked at the blood-covered, exhausted Bel and Lily and steered the two of them toward the basement. Seeing this, they obediently returned to the basement to bathe and rest. My goddess, I have something to take care of, I'll step out for a bit. Lu Qiming glanced at the two who were asleep, walked to Hestia's side, and spoke softly. Qiming, are you going to check on the people you rescued today? I'm a bit worried. If members of the Aikilos familia or Ishtar familia refuse to give up, they'll be in danger without me there. Lu Qiming nodded. He wasn't surprised Hestia knew. Having lived in Orario for countless years, even if Hestia had always been alone, the other gods couldn't fail to notice what he'd done. Go on, but don't you dare take advantage of them while you're at it. Hestia leaned close to Lu Qiming and gave him a playful smile. As for his actions, she supported them. My goddess, I'm not that kind of person. Lu Qiming looked at Hestia in exasperation. Really, did she think he was like that? After that, Lu Qiming left the Hestia Familia camp and headed towards Sister Tia's tea shop, observing the pedestrians along the way, especially the young ladies selling tea in the roadside stalls. Each one grew wildly excited upon seeing him, almost overly enthusiastic. From time to time a girl would run up and ask if Lu Qiming wanted some tea, accompanied by several of them together. Passing adventurers looked on enviously but didn't dare say anything. After the Donatus, Lu Qiming's title of Black Reaper had spread across Orario, coupled with today's rumors. Every time he glanced over, people quickly lowered their heads. Looks like news of this incident has already circulated throughout Orario. Lu Qiming noted their reactions and merely smiled faintly. At least after this, unless someone was tired of living, kidnapping incidents in Orario should plummet. As for after he left, well, there was still Belle. The current Belle was no longer the naive boy of the original story. Lord Qiming, would you like to come to Linlin's place? Lots of Linlin's sisters are grateful to you, so we. At that moment, a young lady who tugged Lu Qiming leaned in and whispered the invitation. Thank you, but I still have some business. Lu Qiming smiled gently, eased the girl out of his arms. He hadn't done all this so every young lady in Orario could chat with him. He simply couldn't stand such crimes. All right, but remember to come by any time, Lord Qiming. The girl called Linlin glanced in the direction he was heading, gave a knowing smile, kissed his cheek in thanks, and left with her companions. Before they departed, all the girls cheerfully crowded in to give him a peck on the face. Lu Qiming watched them go, wiped the marks from his face, and walked on. Still, being thanked did feel rather nice, though the girls were a bit too enthusiastic. Before long, Lu Qiming stepped into Sister Tia's tea shop. Qiming, you're here. Sister Tia looked up, came straight over, took his arm, and led him toward the room. Ah, Sister Tia, no, I came to ask about those who were rescued. Sister knows, but we can talk while we chat, and your sister Anya and the others are still waiting for you. With that, Sister Tia opened the door and went in. Even the two warm-hearted half-elf young ladies were inside. That night, while chatting with the many sisters, Lu Qiming learned that most of the rescued girls and little Lawless had already stated where their homes were, and Sister Tia had commissioned the Loki Familia to escort them back. As for the remaining few, some chose to learn a trade and settle in Orario, and several even asked Sister Tia whether Lu Qiming's familia was still recruiting. On that point, Lu Qiming planned to discuss it with Hestia tomorrow. After all, the Hestia familia couldn't stay tiny with only Belle and a handful of others, and once he left, having some adventurer girls to look after Sister Tia would set his mind at ease. At dawn, Lu Qiming climbed out of bed and gently pushed aside the half-elf young lady and cat-girl young lady draped over him. Looking at the huge bed beneath him, Lu Qiming deeply admired Sister Tia's foresight. Only a bed this large could accommodate so many sisters for their heart-to-heart chat with him. Qiming, are you heading back? At that moment, Sister Yilian, now awake, softly looped her arms around Lu Qiming's neck, nestling against his chest. I'm going to report to our goddess about those girls we rescued last night who want to join the familia here in Orario. No rush, it's still early. Let's do our morning workout first. Still early. Lu Qiming looked at the sunlight already streaming into the room, a huge question mark floating above his head. The next second he stood up and drew the curtains, the room sank back into darkness. Now that's more like it, still early. In the darkened room, heart-to-heart chatter rose and fell. As Qiming and Sister Isis talked, the others woke up and cheerfully joined in. Evening came, Lu Qiming left the tea shop and returned to the Hestia Familia home. Goddess, I'm back. The moment he stepped in, he saw Hestia beaming on the sofa, with Belle beneath her. Kimming, welcome home. Perched on Belle's back, Hestia twisted around, waving a status sheet and shouting. Kimming, Belle's stats have jumped. Lu Kimming took the sheet from Belle. Every stat that had been 0 to 99 had climbed. The lowest was now D in strength, while agility had soared to B. Looks like today's battles weren't wasted. Reading the sheet, he recalled that in the original story Belle reached LV.2 in a month and a half, then blazed to LV.5 in 6. This time the climb should be even faster. He handed the sheet back to Belle and turned to Hestia. Lady Hestia, there's something I need to discuss. Lu Kimming outlined how the rescued girls wished to join the Hestia Familia. They really want to join us. Hestia looked at him, hopeful and delighted. Once she'd been utterly alone, no one wanted her Familia. Then Lu Kimming and Belle arrived, and now so many more wished to join. She was overjoyed. Yes, but first we'll need a war game. Lu Kimming caught Hestia's bouncing twin tails. Pure reflex, Sister Yilian's twin tails this morning had left him programmed to grab any steering wheel he saw. A war game. Kimming, which Familia do you want to fight? Ignoring her captured twin tails, Hestia stared at him gravely. A war game was total war between familias, and the loser paid everything. The Apollo Familia. A slight smirk curled his lips as he gazed outside. Ever since he arrived in Orario, Apollo, the pervert who'd set his sights on him, had been on his mind for a long, long time. And once he left this world, Apollo would, just like in the original, target Belle. Better to strike first, right now. The Apollo Familia. Kimming, are you sure it's not the Aikilos Familia or the Ishtar Familia? Hestia stared in shock. She hadn't heard of Apollo Familia dabbling in kidnapping. She'd assumed he meant to crush the Aikilos and Ishtar Familias and disband them. No, it's Apollo. I'll deal with those two separately, and our compound's too small. Apollo's mansion is just the right size. Then when do you plan to start the war game? Hestia blinked at his words, then asked no more. She had no objection to warring with Apollo Familia. After all, Apollo had pursued her since heaven, and now he was eyeing both Lu Kimming and Belle. The thought of anyone coveting her two finest children made her want to cheer, do it. A war still needs a reason. With that, Lu Kimming turned to Belle, who was poring over his status sheet. Goddess, Teacher Kimming, what are you? Belle, the time has come for you to give everything for the Hestia Familia. Belle, for our Mons, for the future of the Hestia Familia. Grinning, Lu Kimming walked over and clapped Belle on the shoulder. While Welf recovered, he'd send Belle to the taverns every day. As for what came next, Lu Kimming was sure that after all this restraint, Apollo must be reaching his limit. For the next half-month, Lu Kimming routinely went to the dungeon every day to grind attributes and, while he was at it, blow up the dungeon. However, perhaps because he had blown it up too many times, the dungeon consciousness recently couldn't even be bothered to descend to cleanse the area. It merely repaired the dungeon remotely. For this reason, Lu Kimming deliberately blew up one random floor every day in addition to the 24th layer. During this time, Welf also fully recovered and returned to Belle's party, restarting their journey through the middle floors as a trio. Teacher Kimming, shall we go celebrate tonight? At the dungeon exit, Belle and the others were deliberately waiting here for Lu Kimming after leaving the dungeon today. Celebrate. Yes, Welf successfully leveled up to LV2 today. We plan to celebrate together. Then let's go together. Lu Kimming nodded, agreeing to the trio's suggestion. Coincidentally, today he had also maxed out all the attributes for his level 2 adventurer class, and his assassin level had also increased again, making it a perfect time to celebrate. Lord Kimming, are we going to the Hostess of Fertility tonight again? On the way to the restaurant, Lily Deand looked up and asked curiously. For the past half-month, the three of them had been eating out every night after leaving the dungeon and returning to Orario, as requested by Lu Kimming. No, tonight we'll follow them. Lu Kimming slightly raised his head and looked ahead. A group of people dressed in Apollo Familia attire were secretly watching them from nearby, although their method of observation was subtle. Ever since he activated his second layer of skills, Lu Kimming would occasionally notice members of the Apollo Familia nearby, but at the time, he was too busy leveling up to bother with them. Now, Both his adventurer class and assassin class were temporarily in a slow period of strength improvement. To improve quickly, he would have to go below the 50th floor of the dungeon, but the dungeon consciousness was waiting for him there. For this reason, Lu Qiming planned to settle everything at once, then charge directly into the 50th floor of the dungeon for a massive harvest. Just when the dungeon consciousness thought he was making a final, desperate dash before death, he would blow her up one more time and escape. As for returning to this world again, he believed that by then, he would definitely have the strength to make the dungeon consciousness assume all sorts of interesting poses. Before long, the group of Apollo Familia members ahead seemed to have finished discussing something and walked into a nearby restaurant. Let's go, we're going there. Lu Qiming smiled faintly and led Belle and the others directly into the restaurant, sitting next to the Apollo Familia. Qiming. Yo, isn't that Bet? Why aren't you going to the dungeon with Ice and the others today? Bet looked speechlessly at Lu Qiming. Does this guy even know how to chat? Bet, join us. Bet sat down next to Lu Qiming with his hands in his pockets, skillfully took a wine glass, filled it for himself, and raised an eyebrow at Lu Qiming. Hey. Lu Qiming smirked, took the wine glass, and started competing with Bet in drinking. With his current physique, this amount of alcohol was like water. He'd need Soma Familia's divine liquor to get drunk. Beside them, Lily Deand and the other two started eating as they watched Lu Qiming and Bet compete in drinking. Next to them, several members of the Apollo Familia exchanged glances. One of them, a mushroom-headed Palom, looked at the group with disdain, and the others nearby wore mocking expressions. Just then, Bell raised his wine glass toward Welf. Congratulations on leveling up, Welf. Thanks. Welf raised his wine glass. Seeing this, Lu Qiming and Bet also raised theirs. Cheers. The 5 wine glasses clinked in midair. Level 2, huh. That means this party is now disbanded. Welf went into the dungeon to level up and acquire forging skills, so there's no need for him to continue traveling with us. Lily Deand lowered her head as she spoke. After spending this time together, she had come to regard Welf as a comrade. I'm not the type to just pack up and leave when things are done. Don't worry, I'll still hang out with you guys in the future. Welf said this, raised his glass, looked at Bell and the other, and downed it in one gulp. Speaking of which, Lord Bell, haven't you reached your next level up yet? Lily Deand asked Bell beside her curiously. Yes, it's close. My attributes improved quite a bit after defeating the Goliath last time, and with this past half-month, it's coming soon. Suddenly, Lu Qiming, who was drinking, paused slightly and looked at the Apollo Familia beside them. The mushroom-headed Palom, who had been mocking them moments ago, was walking toward them. They finally showed up. If they hadn't come soon, I was planning to make a move myself. Level 3, you say. The mushroom-headed Palom stood by their table with his hands on his hips, looking mockingly at Bell. I don't care if you're the world's fastest white rabbit, there should be a limit to your cheating. You're just a little white rabbit with first-class running speed, leveling up by running away through hordes of monsters. And now you're almost level 3. If it were me, I'd be too ashamed to leave the house. Following the mocking laughter of the Apollo Familia's mushroom-headed Palom, the other adventurers in the restaurant who had been eating and chatting also turned their heads, looking at Bell with ridicule. They had long been displeased with this brat who leveled up in just a month and a half. Where did this scum come from? Are you looking to die? Bet glared unhappily at the Palom beside them. Just as he was about to stand up, Lu Qiming pulled him back, shaking his head with a gentle expression. TCH. Bet looked pityingly at the Palom. He knew that whenever Lu Qiming showed that smile, someone was about to suffer. Look quickly. Among his companions, there's a ragtag bunch from other familias, an unknown, useless blacksmith, plus a little kid supporter. That's right. They're quite a match for a cheating rookie. Ha 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 ha. Inside the restaurant, the members of the Apollo Familia laughed unrestrainedly. But there's no helping it. The cowardly rabbit belongs to the weakest, lowest familia, after all. Their chief god is a fallen goddess with no authority or dignity, only her chest to hold up the fort. The mushroom head walked up to Bell, a look of smugness on his face, and laughed provocatively. Bell, cripple him. Lu Qiming slightly turned his head, a terrifying curve pulling at the corner of his mouth, and red light flashed in his eyes. Yes. Teacher Qiming. Bell displayed the same smile as Lu Kiming and looked at the Palom, faint killing intent enveloping him. Wah, what's wrong? Are you angry because I hit the nail on the head? Just confess to everyone that you, as a member of that short-stacked goddess's familia, are actually. Boom. The next second, a wine glass smashed into the mushroom-headed Palom. He instantly flew backward, knocking over the Apollo Familia's table before embedding himself violently into the wall, continuously spitting blood from his mouth. Seriously, although I was planning to start a war anyway, insulting my goddess like that still irritates me. Lu Kiming casually picked up the wine glass in front of Bet. Tangible killing intent enveloped the entire restaurant. His blood-red eyes slightly lifted to look at the Apollo Familia captain not far away. Go back and tell your chief god Apollo, the war has begun. Saying this, Lu Kiming ignored the Apollo Familia members who were glaring at him in anger, walked over to the Palom embedded in the wall, grabbed his head, and yanked him out. You're the reason for the war, aren't you? Black Reaper, wah, what do you want to do? Midair, the mushroom-headed Palom trembled all over as he looked at Lu Kiming. Although he had guessed he would get injured during the provocation, the captain never said he would be killed. Of course, I'm starting the war, just as you wished. Ah. Lu Kiming smiled faintly. With a slight shake of his right hand, he instantly crushed all 5 limbs of the Palom before him, turning them into a bloody pulp. The agonizing screams echoed throughout the restaurant, and everyone looked at Lu Kiming in terror. Hey! Snickering, Lu Kiming casually tossed the Palom in his hand to the Apollo Familia captain. In the original story, they also used this method to provoke Bell, but in the original story, this Palom only suffered minor injuries and later pretended to be severely wounded to instigate the war. HMPH. Let's go. Hyacinthus immediately tossed the Palom in his hand to a nearby comrade and walked out of the restaurant with a cold smile. His mission was now complete. As for that mushroom head, originally, according to his plan, Lu Kiming should have killed him outright, which would serve as the pretext for war. Although the mushroom-headed Palom, Becca, survived, Lu Kiming had already declared war, so his mission was still accomplished. After the Apollo Familia group walked out of the restaurant, the other adventurers who had been watching the spectacle stood up, threw money onto their tables, and rushed out. They were in no mood to eat now. They couldn't wait to report such sensational news, the Apollo Familia starting a war with the Hestia Familia, to their chief gods. Teacher Kiming, didn't you say I should make the move? After everyone in the restaurant left, Bell looked at Lu Kiming speechlessly. He had been told to make the move, yet Lu Kiming crippled the mushroom head before he could act, leaving him in an awkward position. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of fun later. Lu Kiming sneered as he looked outside. He was going to give Apollo a big surprise later. He had never truly gone all out in Orario before. Apollo Familia. After returning, Hyacinthus had others take the mushroom-headed Palom, Becca, for treatment, while he walked directly into the Great Hall to see his chief god Apollo. Lord Apollo, the plan was successful, but there are rumors about the Black Reaper's strength, that he once cleaved the 17th floor with a single sword, and... Don't worry. Apollo stepped down from the throne in the Great Hall, gently stroked Hyacinthus's face, a disgusting and greedy smile appearing on his own. Although Lu Kiming defeated the Goliath before becoming an adventurer, and even awakened the blood of the moon god after the expedition, he is only a LV2 adventurer. With hundreds of my Apollo Familia members facing 3 members of the Hestia Familia, Hyacinthus, do you think we will lose? Apollo laughed proudly as he spoke, tightly hugging his own shoulders, his legs rubbing together gently, and he raised his head in ecstasy. Ah, I can barely wait to get those 2 children. Whether it's Lu Kiming or Bell. What a wonderful taste they will be together. Yes. Lord Apollo, I will go prepare tomorrow's banquet. Hyacinthus habitually ignored Apollo's current state. Ever since Lu Kiming appeared, Apollo had been like this every day, even making Hyacinthus wear a mask resembling Lu Kiming when they chatted. As for the rumors about Lu Kiming's strength, they were just rumors after all. Go. Tomorrow, have Daphne and Cassandra deliver the invitations for the war game. Yes. Hyacinthus bowed slightly, then turned and left the Great Hall, looking into the distance with a brutal smile. Black Reaper. I'd like to see how you 3 defeat 100 of us. Early the next morning. Knock. 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 The basement door of Hestia Familia was pounded on. Outside stood a brisk-looking red-haired woman with golden eyes and a gray-blue-haired woman who radiated an "I'm easy to bully" vibe. Danav, did we come too early? Cassandra timidly glanced at Danav. Was it really okay to disturb them this early? The next second the door opened and Bell stepped out, eyeing the two curiously. When he noticed the Familia emblems on their shoulders his gaze sharpened. Apollo Familia, what business do you have? Give this to your goddess. Danav held out an envelope bearing the Apollo Familia crest. I'm Danav, this is Cassandra. This is Lord Apollo's banquet invitation. Consider it delivered, good day. With that, Danav turned and walked off, Cassandra in tow. After a few steps she looked back at Bell with sympathy. My condolences. The two vanished the next instant. Those final words were meant for Bell and Lu Kiming, and for themselves as well. Years ago they had belonged to a different familia. After Apollo took an interest, their familia had faced the same forced war game. In the end they lost. Not only were they claimed by Apollo, their familia was disbanded and their patron deity expelled to heaven. Danav, can't we stop this war? Halfway down the street Cassandra summoned her courage. Her prophetic gift had shown her a blood-red moon devouring a golden sun. You know that's impossible, Cassandra. Lord Apollo won't give up on Lu Kiming and Bell any more than he gave up on us. Cassandra lowered her head and followed Danav in silence. Back in the basement, Bell handed the envelope to Hestia on the sofa. What is Apollo up to? Kiming declared war last night and he still sends a party invite. What's he thinking, Kiming? She passed the invitation to Lu Kiming. A banquet for the gods, and he insists the three of us attend. You, me, and Bell. Lu Kiming smiled, set the card on the table and looked at Hestia. Since he named us, let's go see what he's plotting. Let's invite Mayak and Ares too, strength in numbers. Hestia beamed, turning to Kiming and Bell. Perfect, neither of you has formal wear, let's go shopping today. With that she dragged Bell, Kiming, and a bewildered Lily out the door. The four of them swept through the Tower of Babel's boutiques, Kiming footing the bill. Evening fell beneath the last rays of sunset. Dressed in black formal wear, Lu Kiming helped Hestia from the carriage and gazed up at the opulent mansion echoing with laughter. Teacher Kiming, what are you looking at? Bell poked his head from the carriage, curious. At our future Hestia Familia headquarters. Another carriage drew up. Mayak stepped out smiling. Sorry, Hestia, leaving you to arrange clothes and carriages. It's for nausea, time to splurge a little. Hestia, in a purple gown studded with gems, turned, her striking curves dazzling. Thank you so much, Lady Hestia, you look stunning tonight. Nausea curtsied gracefully. No worries. Takemikazuki's probably already here, let's head in. Hestia linked arms with Kiming and Bell and strode inside. Inside, gods chatted merrily. When Hestia's group entered every head turned. That boy's Lu Kiming, how I want him. Hestia's so lucky. On the dais Apollo appeared, flanked by the morning envoys and Familia Captain Hyacinthus. Thank you all for coming. Apollo covertly eyed Kiming and Bell, reining in his greed as he addressed the crowd. I've changed tonight's theme, dress up your cherished children and parade them here, quite entertaining, don't you think? Well done, Apollo. Exactly. Apollo nodded at the cheers above. Seeing so many kin and their children fills me with joy. Tonight may bring new encounters, I feel it. He smiled pointedly at Kiming and Bell below. TCH, makes me sick. Kiming stepped aside. One more glare and he'd draw his sword, but the war game would deliver the real surprise. Kiming, try this, it's delicious. Hestia waved him over. Coming, goddess. He joined her, letting her cheer wash away Apollo's foul taste. Whoa! A big shots arrived. Gasps swept the room toward the entrance. Who might this esteemed deity be? Bell looked curiously at the two people walking in and asked. Freya, a goddess who's practically invincible in a certain sense. Lu Kiming casually lifted a piece of fruit from the plate to Hestia's lips, his eyes on the approaching Freya. Who knew what scheme she was cooking up lately? She hadn't come pestering him for ages. Lady Freya. Don't look at her, Bell. If anyone in a familia sees the goddess of beauty, they'll fall for her in an instant. Just as Bell turned to look at Freya in curiosity, Hestia clapped a hand over his eyes and yelled. Meanwhile, Lu Kiming studied the women around him. Every single one of them actually blushed the moment they saw Freya. Was every female in this world that intense? Long time no see, Kimming. Freya turned and walked over, ignoring Belle and Hestia entirely. To everyone's shock, she gently hugged Lu Kimming. Hey, Freya, don't get so close, we're not that familiar. Oh my, don't say that. Freya's fingers brushed Lu Kimming's cheek as she inhaled his scent with infatuation. Tonight, would you have a little, heart-to-heart, with me? In your dreams. Hestia yanked Freya away from Lu Kimming and glared at him, cheeks puffed. Kimming, you too, why were you hugging her? This goddess devours every man she meets, even you'd be drained dry. Don't worry, goddess. If I'd wanted to, I'd have been eaten long ago. Lu Kimming rubbed his chin as he eyed Freya. If he really wanted, he wouldn't need to lift a finger, he could just lie back and Freya would get started on her own. Oh dear, looks like I've upset Hestia. But Kimming, whenever you need me, just say the word, and you too, Belle over there. I wouldn't mind having you both together. With that, Freya glanced at the blushing Belle and strolled off into the distance. So you're here, Shorty. Loki's voice rang out behind them. Instantly Hestia's lips puckered and she spun around in a huff. When did you sneak in? Creeping around like that is so lame. Shut it, dummy. If you've got a problem, go tell the goddess who peddles her looks. You stole Isis and my spotlight. Don't blame others. What, because your flat chest stands out in a dress, you're cross-dressing today. HMPH. Chubby little dwarf, I'm not here for you today. Loki stared at Hestia's bouncing assets, fighting back tears as she turned to Lu Kimming. Kimming, heard you declared war on Apollo Familia today. Yeah, Loki, word travels fast. Every god here knows by now, and at tonight's banquet Apollo will formally declare war. By the way, when did that guy offend you? Loki studied Lu Kimming curiously. Others thought he was at most a level 6 adventurer, but she knew exactly how monstrous his real strength was. To put it bluntly, as long as the gods themselves didn't intervene, Lu Kimming could wipe Orario off the map without breaking a sweat. Loki, don't tell me you don't know what a freak he is. Lu Kimming glanced toward the dais. Apollo stood there, cheeks flushed, wearing a twisted grin as he stared at Lu Kimming and Belle and walked over. Hum. Apollo stood before Lu Kimming and Belle, his greedy desire undisguised, tongue flicking across his lips. Apollo, what do you want? Hestia spread her arms, shielding Lu Kimming and Belle as she challenged him. Oh, Hestia, seems my familia received quite a bit of your care the other day. Your people started the turf fight. True, but your familia beat mine half to death. I demand compensation. Hand over Lu Kimming and Belle Crenel to join my familia, how about it? As he spoke, the bandage-wrapped Becca was carried out. TCH, Apollo, still dreaming. He insulted my goddess, not killing him on the spot was mercy. Lu Kimming pulled Hestia behind him and looked at Apollo with disdain. Quit the yakking, if you want war, just say it. He wants to play the saint while acting the thug. Oh, so you refuse to admit wrongdoing, Hestia? Apollo glanced at Hestia behind Lu Kimming, a triumphant smirk curling his lips as he raised both hands and shouted. Then there's no choice. Apollo Familia hereby declares a war game against you, against Hestia Familia. Apollo, you're ruthless. I've been waiting for this. Tonight's highlight, let the war game begin. Nearby, the gods who'd already heard Lu Kimming's declaration yesterday erupted in revelry. After eons of boredom, they craved such a thrill. If we win, Hestia, Lu Kimming and Belle Crenel are mine, and you'll return to the heavens. Apollo pointed at Hestia and laughed greedily, licking his lips. He couldn't wait to own Lu Kimming and Belle. Bring it on. I accept. And when I win, you'll hand over all your assets, disband your familia, and return to the heavens forever. Hestia snatched Loki's glove and flung it in Apollo's face, shouting at him. The two deities have reached accord. Ladies and gentlemen, the war game is on. Instantly the banquet hall erupted in cheers, every god flushed with excitement. Then, Hestia, see you on time at tomorrow's war game council. Apollo gave Hestia a smug look and walked away. He didn't notice Loki and Freya watching him like he was an idiot. They were about to enjoy a great show. The next day, every eye in Orario was on the Adventurers Guild. Today the gods, council would set the time and format for the war game between Apollo Familia and Hestia Familia. In the end, the drawing of lots decreed that the Familia War would begin in 3 days at a fortress a short way outside Orario, victory decided by attack and defense. Because Hestia Familia had too few members, one additional member from a non-Orario Familia could temporarily join them. The moment the announcement was made, Orario erupted in excitement. Every major betting house opened odds on the Hestia Apollo war game. Almost no one backed Hestia Familia, even though it counted the city-famous top-tier adventurer, the Black Reaper, among its ranks. Apollo Familia odds 1.5, Hestia Familia odds 110. Only the adventurer who had once seen the 17th floor split in two on the 17th floor staked his entire fortune on Hestia Familia amid general mockery. Every other adventurer unanimously bet on Apollo Familia. Yet the betting houses failed to notice a tiny figure slipping through the crowds, visiting every casino in Orario to bet on Hestia Familia. At that moment, inside Mayak Familia, the girls Irie and Anya, once saved by Lu Kiming, together with their captain, Holy Knight Gareth, knelt before their patron god and looked up in entreaty. Lord Mayak, we have a favor to ask. You three. Please let us join Lord Kiming's Familia, we wish to repay his kindness. Mayak blinked at their words, but seeing the resolve on their faces he smiled faintly and nodded. Takemikazuki Familia. Makoto found Takemikazuki, who was worrying over how to help Hestia Familia. Lord Takemikazuki, permit me to leave Takemikazuki Familia and join Sir Bell's Familia. Ever since learning the rules of the war game between Apollo Familia and Hestia Familia, Makoto had reached this decision. Hephaestus Familia. You say you want to join Hestia Familia. You think I'd allow such a willful notion? Hephaestus sat upon her chair, looking down at Welf kneeling before her. If I don't step forward now, the goddess I revere will surely scold me later. Weren't you aiming to forge a weapon surpassing any magic sword? As long as the flame of passion burns in my heart, I can forge weapons anywhere, that's what you taught me. Welf lifted his head and met Hephaestus's gaze with unshakable determination. Ha! Hephaestus sighed, then spoke like a mother whose child is leaving the nest. One last time, why are you going this far? For my friends. Loki Familia. Tiona was noisily insisting on joining Hestia Familia to help Lu Kiming, while even Ice stared fixedly at Loki. Come on, what are you two thinking of butting in for? You know better than anyone how strong that Kiming guy is. Loki looked at them in exasperation, inwardly cursing Lu Kiming for stealing Tiona and Ice in such a short time. Right, Tiona, you'd be useless there. And Ice, why are you joining this nonsense? Finn stepped forward. Ever since Loki had explained the war game rules at noon, the two girls had been arguing nonstop. But Kiming is our comrade, he needs us now. Tiona answered with a guilty glance, she couldn't admit she just wanted in on the fun. Enough. Tiona, Ice, do you seriously intend to quit Loki Familia? Livia's fixed the pair with a stern look. They were being reckless. If Lu Kiming lacked strength she'd fully support them, but Apollo Familia had no chance of stopping him. Oh. Tiona and Ice drooped their heads in defeat and said no more. Behind the hostess of fertility. Hermes stood with palms pressed together before the elf. Please, little Lulun. You're the only one who fits Apollo's helper conditions. I swear I won't let your real identity slip, please. I'm begging you to, Lulun. Sir added her plea from the side. Mama Mia's going to scold me again. Lulun glanced toward the tavern where Mia was wiping the counter, then gave a small nod. That night, in the underground chamber beneath the ruined church. Lu Kiming looked speechlessly at the two little lawless clinging to him, then lifted his gaze to the stern-faced man seated opposite. I'm grateful you came, but are you sure you want to join Hestia Familia? Lord Kiming, this is our carefully considered decision. As holy knights, how could we not give everything when our benefactor is in trouble? Lord Mayak has also approved our choice. Please let us join Hestia Familia and lend you our strength. Senior. Ellie and Aaron feel the same way. Senior, I'm going with you to chop people up. The two little lawless, Ellie and Aaron, clung tightly to Lu Kiming's thighs and shook them hard. All right, stop shaking, any more and something's going to break. Lu Kiming quickly agreed to the three of them. At first he'd refused, but the moment the two little girls heard that, they latched onto him. Thanks to the height difference he couldn't move recklessly, or else. Then I'll leave it to you, goddess. Hestia nodded, stepped over from Welf and the others, and began granting the three her divine blessing. Lily, how did the task I gave you today go? Lu Qiming turned to Lily. Earlier he'd handed over every valise he'd earned lately and told her to bet it all at the major casinos. It's done. All 14 billion valise you gave me are on our familia to win. But Lord Qiming, if we win and they refuse to pay up, what then? Lily's beast ears twitched. If Hestia Familia won, the payout would be 140 billion valise, an amount she was sure the bookies would never want to hand over. Refuse. Don't worry, unless they plan to leave Warario, they'll scrape together every last coin to pay us. Lu Qiming gave a cold laugh. He had no intention of holding back in this war game. Since he'd soon be leaving this world, he might as well leave something behind. Senior, what's the battle plan for the war game? Can I go wild from the start? By then Ellie and the other two, now officially in Hestia Familia, crowded over, especially the two little lawless, who excitedly pulled out their door-plank great swords, itching to go slash something right away. Battle plan. What's that? Lu Qiming gently patted Ellie's head, looked at the puzzled group beside him, and grinned. Life's too short for plans like lurking and ambushing, we're going to bulldoze Apollo Familia head-on. Lord Qiming, let me take the vanguard. The holy knight Gareth flashed a broad grin and stepped forward, thick holy light surging around him. I'll forge as many magic swords as I can these few days. Welf drew the great sword on his back and stroked it gently. My blade is already starving for battle. Sisters Ellie and Aaron whirled their great swords, raising a whirlwind in the basement. Teacher Qiming, leave Apollo Familia's Captain Hyacinthus to me. Bell lifted his head toward Lu Qiming. As Hestia Familia's captain he had to settle that man himself. Then I'll keep an eye out when the time comes. Lu Qiming nodded, glanced at the rest, and smiled. Now they only had to wait for the war game to begin. 3 days later, dawn light bathed the land. Outside the ruined church, Lily sat atop a broken pillar gazing at the sky. Welf squatted nearby, quietly watching the basement entrance. Ryu, who'd come to help, leaned against a crumbling wall, lost in thought as she fingered the magic sword at her waist. The two little lawless, Ellie and Aaron, stood below in fervent excitement, polishing their great swords non-stop, while beside them the holy light on Gareth grew ever more dazzling in the morning sun. Ming sat quietly to one side, observing everyone. Suddenly the basement door opened, and all heads turned toward it. Lu Qiming wore his usual gear, only now with a pair of silver fingerless gloves, a faint smile on his face. Behind him, Belle and Hestia emerged as well. Let's go, time to start our war game. Under the sunlight the group gathered around Lu Qiming and followed him toward the distance. Everyone, I'll be waiting for news of your triumph. Hestia waved at the departing backs and shouted. Goddess, we'll return in triumph. Lu Qiming glanced back at Hestia, then turned and led the group onward. Apollo, are you ready to taste despair? In the darkness of night, a long serpentine column wound across the black earth toward the fortress ahead. Under the massive gate streamed Apollo Familia members laden with supplies. Atop the central tower of the fortress, Hyacinthus stood by the window watching his familia below make ready for war. Forced to sit behind walls and wait for the enemy, what a dull game. Hyacinthus lifted his gaze toward the horizon, where a faint light was rising. When the sun lit the land the war game would officially begin, and then he would show Hestia Familia the meaning of an unbeatable foe. Aurario's weakest little familia would be crushed and trampled beneath Apollo Familia's heel, just like always. He could hardly wait to see the Black Reaper's face twist in helpless despair. How entertaining that would be. On the rampart below, Cassandra stared into the distance, an eerie glimmer flickering in her eyes. Ah, the fortress will be destroyed. Cassandra, prophesying from your dreams again. You think we'll lose? Danav turned, gave Cassandra a smiling glance, then looked toward the central tower. If our General Hyacinthus stays safe for 3 days, we win, take out their general and we win. Hestia Familia's newcomers only bring them to a handful, while we number in the hundreds. How could we possibly lose? But, please believe me, Daphne. When the sun stands overhead this fortress will. Cassandra seized Daphne's hand, words rushing out. Beside her, Daphne simply lowered her head and shouted down to their companions. That's the last of them, close the gate. It's over, flames and ice will raise these walls, and a blood-red moon will shine upon the ruins. Watching the gate shut, Cassandra lifted her eyes to the slowly rising dawn. The bright sun climbed into the sky, its warm rays bathing the labyrinth city of Warario. Before the Adventurers Guild, a raised platform now drew a throng of adventurers and townsfolk. Good morning, everyone. The long-awaited opening day of the war game is here. I'm your live reporter, Ibli Acher, nickname, Flame Blaze Inferno, pleased to meet you all. Commentary will be provided by my patron god, Lord Ganesha. The youth with the microphone swung his arm and passed the mic to an elephant-masked deity, Ganesha, beside him. I am Ganesha Da, and I'll be bringing you live coverage of the war game. Below the stage, Aina watched the mirror beside Ganesha with worry. In moments it would broadcast the fortress where the battle would unfold. Atop Warario's highest spire, the Tower of Babel, the city's gods had all gathered. Ooh, so lively, so lively. Loki rested her left hand atop her head as she gazed down at the dense crowds, a mischievous grin on her face. A war game's basically a grand show for Warario, after all. Hephaestus came up the stairs behind her and stood at her side, looking toward the site of the contest. Hard on the actors, though. Still, Loki, you don't seem worried about Hestia Familia at all. Didn't that boy Kimming get along famously with your children? That kid. Nothing to worry about. Today it's Apollo who's in for a nasty surprise. Loki turned toward the newly arrived Apollo, her smirk growing sharper. Apollo strutted in, looking as though victory were already his, and stopped beside Hestia. Hestia, finished your farewells with Liu Kimming and Belcranel. Once I win this war game and claim them, you'll have to leave Warario, no, leave the mortal world. HMPH. Hestia turned away, ignoring him, just you wait and see who laughs last. At that moment Hermes' voice rang through the center of the gathering, drawing every gaze. Time is up. Uranos, grant me leave to use divine power. Permission granted. With a snap of Hermes' fingers a sphere of white light appeared overhead, expanding until it showed the fortress of the war game. The same image sprang into being all across Warario. In an instant the city fell silent, every eye fixed on the live broadcast. Ice, it's starting. Back at Loki Familia, Tiona dashed into Ice Room and dragged her to the hall where the whole Familia had gathered to watch the glowing projection. Before the guild, commentator Ibli Acher thrust his microphone high and shouted. All right, noon has come, let the war game commence. Inside the fortress, Apollo Familia manned their posts, though most looked distracted. Here we go. Still, we've got 3 days, they won't attack right, huh? 2 archers on the wall were chatting when they suddenly froze. Below the walls a group strode boldly forward with no attempt at concealment. At their head a man in white full-plate armor was already racing toward the gate. They're here so soon. And it's a one-man assault. Has their commander lost his mind? Take him down. Below, the sprinting paladin Gareth lifted his head at the rain of arrows hurtling toward the wall, whipped the great shield from his back, and raised it overhead as sacred light exploded around him. Holy shield. Endless radiance condensed upon the shield, forming a colossal barrier. The next instant every arrow was turned aside by the solidified light. Do you crave immortality? Beneath the shield, a smile crossed Gareth's resolute face. He braced, muscles taut, drew a deep breath, and stared ahead. Come on, cowards. The shield flashed like a comet toward the distant wall, his thunderous roar shaking the air. Above, archers who'd frozen in surprise now blazed crimson-eyed, hurled their bows away, and leapt screaming from the parapet straight at him. Ha! So you're not cowards after all. Watching the taunted bowman rain down, Gareth smiled, drew the greatsword at his waist, and let holy light sheath him in solid armor. Paladin's wrath. The ground quaked as Gareth charged, the earth trembling beneath him, a storm of dust rolling in his wake. Ha! With a roar he swept his blade in a wide arc. Crimson-eyed archers, suddenly facing death, snapped awake, too late to flee. They were flung skyward by the blow, crashing to the ground in sprays of blood. On the wall, would-be jumpers were yanked back by comrades who stared in disbelief at the paladin below. What the hell is that guy? That's Paladin Gareth, leader of Mayak Familia. Why would he join Hestia Familia? Up top, someone recognized him, a Level 4 adventurer and a rare holy warrior, how could he defect to Hestia Familia? Below, Gareth leveled his sword at the Apollo Familia crowd and laughed. Cowards, dare you come down and fight? Before the Adventurers Guild, viewers gaped at the feed. Gareth had just dismantled most of Apollo's archers, and now Lu Qiming's group swaggered toward the fortress. What an explosive opener from Hestia Familia. Who'd have thought the light chaser, Paladin Gareth would switch sides? Stunning. And for a Familia with no siege strength to choose a frontal assault, what trump card are they hiding? I can't wait to see. Ibli 8 began a loud play-by-play. What had looked like a one-sided fight now had all Orario on the edge of their seats. On the Tower of Babel, Apollo watched the fallen archers with a casual smile and turned to Hestia. Not bad, but I still field over 100. 9 of you, can that little stunt bridge the gap? He licked his lips, eyes glued to Lu Qiming joining Gareth, grinning like a maniac already savoring the night when his fingers would trace every inch of the boy's body. And there's an unexpected extra morsel, tasting them together will be divine. Hestia ignored him, calmly watching Lu Qiming. When she caught the boy's bloodthirsty smile, she knew the war was almost over. Beside her, Loki noticed the same savage grin and shot Apollo a pitying glance. Of all people to covet, you chose Lu Qiming. At the fortress gate, Lu Qiming's 9 lined up shoulder to shoulder, gazing calmly ahead. On the wall, Daphne frowned. Were they surrendering themselves as target practice? To Danav, the motionless group below looked like nothing but free targets. Even the paladin's flashy entrance couldn't justify standing unguarded. But that's no excuse to loiter beneath the walls. Mages, start chanting, wipe them out. Below, Welf felt the rising mana and lifted a hand to cast, but Lu Qiming stopped him with a wave. Too slow, my turn. Crimson flared in Lu Qiming's eyes, a feverish grin split his face, and he stamped the ground. Boom. The earth cratered, dust billowed, and Lu Qiming shot skyward to everyone's shock. Mid-air he looked down at the scrambling Apollo Familia, a blood-red crescent moon rising behind him, its scarlet light washing the fortress. Saw. Let the war begin. Beneath the blood-red crescent moon, a black-haired figure drew every gaze. Cassandra, in particular, stared upward in terror and screamed at the top of her lungs. Run, run. Under the crimson moonlight everything will be destroyed. Cassandra, what are you babbling about? Danav hugged Cassandra tight, but the moment she tried to speak she felt the girl trembling uncontrollably, paralyzed by fear. The blood moon will swallow the sun, shining over broken ruins. Cassandra huddled in Danav's arms, whispering words the other girl couldn't understand. What is that? The sun's been devoured. Suddenly a Loki Familia member pointed skyward with a shaking finger. The golden sun had vanished, replaced by a crimson crescent dominating the heavens. The blood moon has swallowed the sun. The next instant a pillar of mana pierced heaven and earth, the ground quaked, clouds were blasted away, and a sound like the low moan of a death god from hell rolled out. Peerless. Within the solid pillar of mana, the divine judgment in Lu Qiming's hands flashed red and blue in turn. The air froze, a ruinous aura blanketed the land, and countless beasts outside the city bolted for the horizon, instinct driving them to flee. Lord Apollo above, tell me this isn't real. What monster are we even fighting, or is this a fight at all? Every Apollo Familia member on the wall slumped to the ground, body and soul shaking before a being beyond the very concept of humanity. Resistance or escape was impossible, only death felt welcome. Atop the central tower, Hyacinthus clung to the parapet, forcing himself to stand, yet instinct nailed his feet in place. He could only wait for the end. Ice-fire fluctuation soared. The next second Lu Qiming raised his head, aimed divine judgment at the city below, and slashed without hesitation. Thank the rules of the war game. Boom. A bicolored sphere of energy blossomed inside the city, swallowing it whole. The earth convulsed, and before Bell's stunned eyes the wall vaporized, the annihilating surge racing toward them, then halting 1 centimeter away. Bell, do you think Lord Qiming forgot we were still down here? Welf collapsed as if his strings had been cut, staring at the bottomless crater. Under the crimson moon, glassy patches of fused earth and ice laced the chasm. Scattered fragments of the city's buildings dotted the pit, each coated in frost and cracks. I'd say he didn't. He stopped it right in front of us, didn't he? Bell looked skyward. You said the Apollo Familia captain was mine, but now there's probably not even dust left. Teacher Kimming, you liar. Did we even need to come here? Coming to her senses, Makoto glanced at the blade she'd half drawn. She'd meant to charge the instant Lu Kimming leapt, but now, forget it. Senior is amazing. Senior's awesome. Eileen, do you think we can become like him one day? Dunno, but we can ask him how to become a berserker this strong. Okay. With that, Eileen hopped on stubby legs, waving her slab-sized sword at Lu Kimming's back for attention. Any thought of hacking away had vanished. Now they just wanted to know how to turn into such a berserker. While the two little lawless chattered, all of Warario fell silent. On the Tower of Babel, Apollo stared at the scene in disbelief, shuffling toward the center of the chamber, eyes locked on the image. Impossible, he's only been an adventurer a few months, how could he wield such power? Snarling, Apollo spun toward Hestia and roared. Hestia, it was you. You secretly used divine force. No mere level 2 adventurer could wipe out a city and slaughter my entire familia. With that, Apollo burst into laughter, all trace of rage gone. Hestia, you lose. By the rules of the war game, no deaths are allowed. Now Lu Kimming and Bell are mine, and you used divine power. Ha 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 ha. Apollo, it's not I who lost, it's you. Hestia rose slowly, walked to the center, glanced at the laughing Apollo, turned, and pointed at Lu Kimming on the screen. First of all, I never privately used divine power, that was Kimming's own strength. Besides, Apollo, have you sensed any of the blessings you granted your children disappear? Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Apollo, who had been laughing heartily, froze and turned to stare at the city that had vanished from the screen. That's right, why haven't I felt any of the divine blessings I granted vanish? With power that terrifying, why hasn't a single one of them been lost? Could it be? Apollo whipped his head around. Ignoring the treaty that forbade the use of divine power, he unleashed a surge of radiant energy. The sun in the sky flared, breaking through the blood moon blockade Lu Kimming had cast and shining down once more. The next instant, Apollo stood stunned. The image woven by Hermes' power shifted again. At the bottom of the crater, every member of the Apollo familia lay motionless, except for Captain Hyacinthus, shielded by a faint white field above them. HMPH. Apollo, what do you have to say for yourself now? Hestia planted her hands on her hips, triumphant, the justice beneath her chin thrust high, so high one feared her clothes might burst open at any second. I haven't lost yet. Hyacinthus is still standing. Like a gambler who'd bet everything and lost, Apollo glared fixedly at Hyacinthus, the only one left upright in the image. Knowing it was impossible, he still clung to a desperate hope for a miracle. Suddenly, Lu Kimming's group of 9 appeared in the frame, all calmly facing Hyacinthus, who had drawn his sword. Apollo, it's over. Watching Lu Kimming and the others on the screen, Hestia smiled with pride. These were her children, the finest children in all Orario, in the entire world. At the bottom of the crater, Lu Kimming had teleported in with Bell's party. They're Apollo familia members. Lord Kimming, they're not dead. Lily stared at the figures strewn across the ground, recognizing them as the same Apollo familia adventurers who'd stood on the wall moments ago. Not dead, only unconscious. If they'd actually died, we'd have lost the war game. Lu Kimming gazed ahead calmly. At the instant the Apollo members would have died, he'd used his moon arc field to shift them downward. Within that domain such a feat was trivial. He'd even split off part of his own field to protect them. As for Hyacinthus, captain of the Apollo familia, he'd been left behind on purpose, for Bell. Senior. Beside Lu Kimming, Ellie and Aaron bounced excitedly, their door plank swords aimed at the unconscious Apollo familia on the ground. Can we chop them now? Smack. Before Lu Kimming could answer, Gareth rapped each of the 2 little troublemakers on the head. What did I teach you about the Knight's Code? How could you even think of striking an unconscious foe? And remember, this is only a war game, no killing. Pulling stunts like this in training is one thing, but not here. Gareth glared sternly at Ellie and Aaron, apparently oblivious to the fact that his so-called Knight's Code had problems of its own. Captain, we're berserkers, not holy knights. Got it. Then, Captain, can we chop that guy over there? Seeing Gareth's expression darken, Ellie and Aaron, still rubbing their heads, pointed toward Hyacinthus, who stood sword drawn a short distance away. I'll have to ask Lord Kimming. And I'm not your captain, just call me Gareth. With that, Gareth looked toward Liu Kimming. He knew Kimming had kept Hyacinthus alive for a reason. He's reserved for Bell. The final match, Hestia Familia Captain versus Apollo Familia Captain, begins now. Liu Kimming turned to Bell, who had already drawn the Hestia blade. Go. End this war. Yes, Teacher Kimming. Bell turned and walked toward Hyacinthus, a soft white radiance gathering around him. The Hestia blade in his hand lengthened into a sword of light several meters long. Come. With calm resolve, Bell faced the man before him, defeat him, and the war would be over. What did you people do? Hyacinthus raised his longsword, fury on his face, yet his trembling body betrayed him utterly. What did we do? Bell crouched slightly, his light blade held in a reverse grip draw stance as he looked up. Only to end this war game and return triumphantly to our goddess. In the next instant, Bell vanished, a slash of light flashed. Crack. How could I fall here, and fail Lord Apollo's expectations? Staring at the broken sword in his hand, Hyacinthus turned shakily toward Bell, who had already sheathed the Hestia blade. A moment later he collapsed, blood spreading from his chest to stain the earth beneath him. Let's go, back to our goddess. Liu Kimming glanced at the fallen Hyacinthus, then turned and led the group away, vanishing in an instant. Thanks for watching.